to start video, you'll see a little arrow pointing up. And
Yeah.
You can say video settings there, and it may not be connecting to your.
Let's see here. FaceTime with built-in camera. Okay.
Is your camera covered?
Let's see. Oh, shoot. That's it. The camera's covered.
Okay.
Hi. We got it. I see
Jana,
myself now.
This was a triumph in technological mastery,
Okay, I got it.
and it's good to see you.
Nice to meet you. Oh, I always forget about that. The camera being covered up. Okay, thank you.
All right. Let's see if we've got a quorum and we couldn't call our meeting to order. I'm just looking for certain folks who are kind of critical. Do you guys see Walter? Is he logged in yet? I've got Hugh, Phil, Paul,
I just have to get one thing.
Jeremy's here too, Phil.
and Jeremy.
And Miranda. I see Miranda.
Oh, terrific. Hey, Miranda, good morning.
Good morning, Phil. How are you doing?
There you are. So we are missing Chip. And we're missing our friend Walter for the Depot District presentation. We
Next to
can,
Walter, he should be logging in now. Let me check.
oh, okay, great. Thanks very much.
Sure.
If my dogs start to bark, should I mute it?
Even if they don't.
You should be on mute until you speak.
Okay. So I guess I'm going to mute it now, right?
That would be good.
Okay,
Yes, mute now.
let's see if it works.
Yeah, you're muted.
You did, Jane. Well done. Maybe we can get a little work done while we're waiting for
So far, so good.
Walter to come on. So meeting's called to order. First order of business is public hearing for the Depot District. Walter's not on yet, so we might move into doing a bit of work on the regular order of business. Has everyone had an opportunity to receive the minutes carefully prepared by Rebecca from the previous meeting?
Yes.
Excellent. May I have a motion to approve the minutes as drafted?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Paul.
Second.
The second from Jeremy, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None. Thank you so much. John Schobel, I see that while I was away, you snuck in another public hearing.
Happens.
It is the code. It default for type 2. And still no Walter yet. We're going to move down through the regular order of business agenda and see what happens. There are no certificate of appropriateness votes today. I do have a question for folks out there. I got some mails.
Walter is here.
Oh, he is.
Walter's on.
Terrific. All right, so if Walter's good to go, we're going to open the public hearing. What we typically do in our public hearings, for at least the commission does, is basically just listen and take this opportunity to receive public comment. And Walter, if you're good to go.
I'm so sorry. I just swallowed an aspirin. It's in my throat. I am good to go. Other than that,
Do you want to pause and get a water or something?
yes, just give me 1 second. Sorry.
Will do.
Oh,
So while he's doing that, Phil, you had said you had a question and then you left it hanging.
Oh,
Curious minds.
curious minds want to know, I got some notes from different applicants that the process is these new applications have to come in through Craig Hague, or we can't act on them, or put them on the agenda. So for example, Craig and I were going back and forth this morning. Is there anyone here from 354, 356 Union?
Yes.
Okay. As far as I know, and I'll defer this to Craig when we get there, I'm not aware that he's received your application. It's not in the group that was forwarded to me, and I don't want to waste your time. So when Craig checks in, we'll just confirm what the status of that is. Okay. Walter?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I have a cough drop now and I'm good.
No, you're on. Thanks so much. And I know that that we had deferred this public hearing at least once, maybe twice. So thank you very much for your patience. And I think everybody will look forward to your presentation. That little video you sent of the district was the animation was pretty cool. But
great.
I'm sure you got other cool stuff. So you're on, Walter.
Okay, so I will try and share my screen now. Great. So speaking of the video, let's go to that. I'm so sorry, I have 6 or 7 of these. So let me make sure I've picked the right one. All right, so those of you who don't know this project, let me very quickly say that, can you see my cursor moving here, everyone?
Yes.
This is the theater at the corner of the public square. This is the Pocketbook Factory over here. This is the Central Fire Station. And this is the existing little depot building here. So this would be State Street here, 7th Street here, just to get you oriented. And what we're proposing are 2 buildings here. And so that will be the center of the video you're about to see. And we're going to try and show you how these buildings actually do fit in quite reasonably with the neighborhood, or so we say, and then you will be able to judge what you feel. There are some, excuse me, additional buildings that have been put in. The old orphanage that fell down, we'd like to rebuild. There's a little triangular building shown here that eventually would come. And the idea is that these buildings combined with the existing buildings can start to screen the composition. And I'll pause for a second to say that this is the number 75 building here over here on the left. This is what we're now calling number 76, which is part of the 708 site. This is the old orphanage, which stood until recently and hopefully will be back again. And this is a little secondary building that we hope to build at some point in the future. It's not planned for now, but it would be a logical thing to do. And I think that you can see, or I hope you can see, that the various scales begin to work together. So you're seeing in this image the side of the theater here, and in the background, that's the Central Fire Station sticking out. And our composition has been designed to try and break the volumes of this building down into something that really approximates the scale of Hudson. And hopefully, with a lot of help and guidance, we're going to be able to do that. So that's the Central Fire Station. This is the really boring part of the movie here, where we drive down to the Central Fire Station and turn around. Okay, and I'll pause it here. So that's the view you're going to get down the street. And again, because of parallax and the way the eye works, even smallish buildings close up tend to disguise these large buildings. So, you know, the central fire station is only 1.5 stories tall, but it is so massive, it really does help to screen this. Okay, so that's the video. It took me a while to realize that we had submitted this initially over a year ago. I looked for the application the other day and I finally found it. It was in March 2021. So I've sent that to you, Phil. It has the secret and everything. And so basically, I think the presentation that we gave a year ago really still stands in terms of all of the big ideas that we're trying to achieve, the way we're trying to fit into the neighborhood, the materials and so forth. So I'm going to go through very quickly explaining the scale. We'll go through the materials and then I'll update you with what we're planning and then we can have a discussion. This is an interesting little shot. Sorry about that. Here we go. So these are the two buildings that we just showed you. The purple.
Walter, it looks like you're still showing the image.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
Black group.
I have to go out. I see. Okay. Sorry, that's very unwieldy. Now, how's that? So that should be a view looking down over the city. Okay. So the building on the left is number 75. Now, just scale comparisons. I mean, this is a 1.5, 2-story high building, but look at the size of the central fire station compared to our two modest little buildings that we're proposing here, or even the scale of the theater. And then the original site included this wonderful thing I'll show you in a second, which was the old Gifford Woods building. There was a large factory here, which we have images of somewhere buried in the presentation. Another one here. And then just under here, you can see there was a very long, varying height building that was like one of those siding things, but it had elevators to raise grain and coal and stuff. So this area has been built over many times. And the actual building that we'll be taking down to replace with this building has a footprint almost half the size of the building that we're replacing it with. So this site has already known a lot of transformation. And again, just for scale, here's the Pocketbook Factory over here in Oakdale Park. And the county office building is here. And I think when you look at the city and look at the buildings that are in this area like this, and you realize they've got characteristics that they have in common. And that's very interestingly because it's somewhat the same zoning area. So I always like to emphasize when I say this, that this is one of the few areas of Hudson where a project like this would be permitted. So allowing this to go forward will in no way doom the city to be obliterated by 4-story buildings. Okay, so oh, good. Okay, so I don't have to go back out. So this is the old Gifford Woods building. And those of you who know the foundry, which is still there, which is covered in metal, that's a little piece of that right there. So this is Columbia Street and Green Street here. This building curved around and was about 1.5 blocks from the depot. And just looking at it, you can see what the city was going to become as it developed as an industrial city. And then, of course, things changed as they always do. Sorry, no, wait. Okay. So very quickly, I'm going to run through this. This was all submitted over a year ago and was our initial proposal for how we wanted to treat the buildings to break them down. And I'm showing this again only because it has materials that are indicative of what we would like to do. Sorry. All right, so we originally proposed a mix of different colors of brick. And then we were going to use a kind of synthetic stone, hopefully a nice synthetic stone on the storefronts, various metals on the roof, and some synthetic gray slate on a part of the building. And that is similar to the synthetic slate that was used on the depot building. Okay, so when we came before HPC last time, we showed these elevations and the storefronts, and we were told they weren't very Hudson. So we thought it would be good to take them and look at it again and try and simplify everything. So basically, you'll see what we've done, or hopefully you'll see what we've done, is we've started moving the storefront in and out, as was suggested at our last meeting with HPC. And instead of this kind of continuous, I'll say, swelligant fake Fifth Avenue facade that we had going at street level before, this is a much more simple street front with small areas of brick allowed to come down to the ground, no fancy materials, but the storefront would be a nice mixture of metals and woods, colored nicely. And then what I'm trying to show here, perhaps not with the best colors, is that we could have awnings, which would further enliven it and move things in and out. So you can see here's an awning sticking out the side, looking south there. And in general, I hope that this drawing, very much when compared to the earlier drawings, shows that the scale of it feels much smaller, that it no longer feels, at least to me, as overwhelming a building. And then just very quickly taking you through, we've resubmitted these elevations with the changes suggested, mostly the storefront, but also, simplifying all of the materials. I don't want to beat it to death and go through every little change. So perhaps the best thing to do would be to open it up for discussion, questions, and so forth.
Thanks, Walter. Now I'm on. Hey, Walter, where does the brewery fit in? In other words, what are well, folks can talk about anything they want, but there's some structures in the aerial and so on that are concepts, if you will. We're focusing on the two major buildings, the residential buildings.
Yes. So the brewery is here, and that is largely finished. I think that's going to be open in the next month or two. I hope it is. And so, that's kind of the headpiece of the entire composition. Then these are the two buildings that we believe are under discussion this morning. Now, since this drawing was done, this storefront at Chip's excellent suggestion has been pulled back. But otherwise, this is, and sorry, these little wings were chopped off. Otherwise, this is pretty much the same. And to, I think, answer your question, Phil, this was the old orphanage. This is this little triangular building, and this was the actual freight depot that was a kind of wood doppelganger for the depot that's been restored. So eventually, we're not 100% this is going to happen, but the intention, the desire would be to put those three things in, and then they act as what I call a kind of screening device. Those of you who are old enough to remember when they first built the World Trade Towers, they looked like they were from Mars because they stuck out, they went right down to the ground. Many years later, buildings had been built all around the base and only the tops came out, and they seemed much more to belong to the city. So that is our hope here.
So Walter, just to interrupt for a moment, if you guys are relying on these future buildings as part of mitigation for this, showing that it lessens the impact, it sort of presents an issue because, the project's coming back before the planning board. And query whether we're going to have to review these future buildings now as part of our seeker review, because you are
So
you know,
my
proposing them and
suggestion-
relying on them. So just
I-
be careful with
Yep.
what you're proposing, and you guys should have an internal discussion because you're going to be back before the board next week.
Okay,
So
good.
just to clarify, those are conceptual buildings
Yeah.
and we're showing something possibly in the future that we could pursue. But what's under review now for the Historic Preservation Commission is simply the two buildings, which I think, the design and material selection and everything of those buildings is really the focus today.
But you're not saying that you need these future buildings in order
No.
to
No.
No,
Okay.
I apologize. I am always aware of this, what is it, compartmentalization?
segmentation.
Segmentation. So this would be the total conceptual future build out of the entire site. But the only thing we're asking you to consider is how well the two large buildings without any additional screening would fit into the neighborhood and whether they would be appropriate or not.
Thanks, Walter. Thanks, Victoria, for asking for that clarification. It's helpful. Walter, if you're okay, I'm going to invite the public to comment.
Sure.
I don't know how to do this. I don't have a full screen, so I can't really see anybody.
Should I unshare?
Unshare if you don't mind, so I can get a view of who's out there and who wants to speak.
It looks like Rebecca Wolf has her hand up. I don't know if she wants to speak or not.
Sure. Rebecca?
Hello, hi. Hold on a sec. Yeah, hi. Thanks for having this meeting. So I'm Rebecca Wolf. I'm a board member of the Hudson Housing Authority, the Rolling Grocer, and the newly created Hudson Housing Trust Fund. I'm speaking in strong support of the thoughtful and collaborative development of our city as we work to ameliorate the housing crisis that is making it an almost insurmountable challenge for working people and the very low income community to remain housed. I'm asking for your approval of these projects, eventual approval, so the HPC, and the developer can collaborate in whatever ways necessary for the forward progress of necessary stabilization for Hudson's workforce and working class community. The city needs additional housing to maintain a healthy social and economic life for its residents. I would really like to see this process underway right now demonstrate how a city's variable communities and actors can come together in the best interests of the whole city to produce a successful project. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Rebecca. Just a footnote, maybe unimportant, but as I'm sure you know, the HPC does not engage or opine on uses of structures unless it's something that that is noted in Chapter 169. We're basically exterior structure, architecture, and mass, but nonetheless, it doesn't change anything. Your comments much appreciated.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Ronald has his hand up, Phil.
Ronald?
Yes, Matt McGee will be speaking.
Hey, Ronald,
Yes, my name is Matt McGee, and I found the presentation was rather truncated as to what was being done to the two actual buildings proposed for them. And am I to understand that the presentation of at the last meeting you were at showed the building on the west side of 7th Street as you intend to do it now?
I'm sorry, I may have run through those elevations too quickly. We were asked to revise the elevation. Mostly
I didn't see the revision of it very well at all.
Okay,
saw it flash on the screen and
I'm happy to go back to that. Maybe we'll take the other comments and stuff, and then Chairman, if it's appropriate, then I'll go back and cover any material that people want to see.
well, I think
That's a good plan. I'd like to hear from other folks, and this is introduction to receive public comment on the agenda. A little bit further down the road, there will be another review of this same project directed to the commission. And I promise you, there'll be fairly detailed discussion, but however it rolls is, it's all good if folks need more detail. Who else has their hand up for a comment? Quentin?
Thank you, Phil. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to speak. I'm Quentin Cross. I'm the senior advisor for the Hudson Catskill Housing Coalition, and I'm actually somebody who voted in favor to create the Historic Preservation Commission way back when. I understand what's in front of the historic preservation and what you look at, but I wanted to speak about a few things that is important. This is an opportunity to bridge the gap of social distance. This is an opportunity to bring folks together in the city. This is an opportunity from our standpoint, not looking at the facade or whether it's square or triangle in the windows or what have you. But if we're reading the news and we're looking at walking up Warren Street, many of the people we don't know, right? We've seen in the news 52% increase in home values in a place like Columbia County. And this is an opportunity for folks like me to be able to go to Cedar Park Cemetery, where many of you love, right? Because it's a historic place, and visit with my grandparents. And without projects like these, we will be displaced. We won't have a place of our own, a place where many of us, I'm 7 generations, Hudson, help build this community, right? Our families help build this community. So all we're asking is for you to find a way under the law to make this work so people can stay here. So people don't have to be in Albany or Schenectady or Troy or wherever. Kingston's being displaced too, maybe a little further. And look at it in those terms. Like, don't be a barrier to this. And it's never been the intent of the law for the historic preservation to be a barrier, right? Like, again, I was there when it was created. I voted on it. We wanted to value and be intentional about the historic nature of this city, while also allowing people to be able to live and thrive in this community. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for all the work you do. I know it's technical work, hard work. We get it. But please think about people who look like me, who are in the socioeconomic background as me, which is we poor, right? And who need some relief also. So I thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Quentin. Who else has a hand up or wishes to speak?
How do you put your hand up? Because since I've never.
You just did. Why don't you go ahead?
Oh, okay. I'm Jane Wood, and I've lived in this area for more than 25 years. And my partner has lived here for probably more than 30 odd years, maybe 35 years. So we've seen Hudson when Warren Street was just an empty street. No cars, no parking. I mean, it was just nothing, but a lot of empty buildings or buildings that were falling apart. And I am in the future, I have a property on Prospect Street, which is located over where you want to do this project, correct? Is this the pocketbook factory we're talking about? No.
No.
Is it near Prospect Street though? Where you want to develop it or no?
It's North 7th and State.
Yeah, okay.
and then
All right,
running
so it's
running out
within-
towards
it's-
the firehouse.
Okay, so it's within that whole area. And I really think it's a nice project. I like the fact that it will supply housing for people that have been here for many, many, many years. Because that's been my concern also. Because I've lived around this community for so long. And I don't want to see it. I like the people who have always been here for 30 years, 35 years, 40 years. I saw people, live and die here. And so I think it's a wonderful project.
Okay.
And I'm concerned also, and I'm just a regular resident, and I'm concerned for the people that have lived here who are being pushed out. And I want to see them be able to remain also. Because that's why I came to this area. Because I liked it. I didn't want to just be in an area that was all the same. That's it.
Jane, thank you so much.
Okay.
Anyone else who wishes to speak?
Julie has her hand up and so does Mayor and so does Michelle. So there are three.
Okay, let's go in that order then. Julie, you want to go ahead and we'll go to Mayor Johnson and then Michelle.
Thank you. Mine is a technical, I might have missed something, but my recollection, and forgive me, I don't know who said it last meeting, that the design was very horizontal. There were comments, and that Hudson is a vertical city and that the design looked more suburban. And in today's picture, perhaps I missed what was being shown as things flip, but I did not see, despite the awnings and so forth and different textures, I didn't see more of a Hudsonian small city look as one of your colleagues was suggesting. And did I miss the photograph shown? It was described as something going back to the original, and so I assumed it was different from what was shown last week, or if it was last week or the week before.
So the second, the color thing that I showed that I was going on about, that is a redoing of the original facades. Whether we succeeded or not, you can say, this public hearings, everybody can say what they think. The criticism was we had our storefronts running down the street as a kind of band, and we accepted that and we pushed them in and we tried to change the materials and add the awnings as a way of breaking it up. And also, let me just say that one of the things that happens, whether architects mean for it or not, is when the stores come, they always put the awning color they like, the sign they want, and so forth. So we just have to provide a kind of background that will allow that to happen, to be more Hudson. And then again, we might have failed miserably, but that's what we were trying to do.
Okay, thank you. I from just a regular citizen perspective, my eye saw still a block that was not in keeping with the city of Hudson.
Okay, thank you. Again, this is not the end of the conversation. When we finish the public hearing, the project is actually back on the agenda, and I promise there'll be more detailed discussion of the stuff you're concerned with. Mayor Johnson.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to the board. I appreciate, as I've said in previous meetings, all the detail and hard work that goes into the commission. I just think for this particular project, you can't separate the use with everything else that goes into the decision-making, because without the approval, there will be no use for the project. And I don't have to tell you guys that we have a housing crisis right now, because you already know that's always the #1 topic when it comes to Hudson. I don't have to tell you guys that the cost of living is through the roof, because you already know. I don't have to tell you guys that our population has gone under 6,000 for the first time, because that's something that you already know as well. Our schools can't find tutors. Our schools can't find coaches because there's not enough people that live here from Monday through Sunday to take on those roles. Our hospital no longer has a birthing unit because our population has dropped and there was not enough live births. And I know in a previous meeting, some people complained that the building is, doesn't look like Hudson, is not Hudson, but there's nothing that's not more Hudson than not having Hudson people live in Hudson. And we've had a bunch of these public hearings across various boards, and the community has come out in droves and in support and saying that this is a necessity and we need to think about lives over aesthetics and, make these decisions based on the needs of our community. So I thank you for having this today, and thank you to the commission.
Phil, you're on mute.
Michelle, had you had your hand up?
Good morning. Yeah, thank you everybody on the commission, and thanks for the presentation. I'm the Housing Justice Director. I'm a certified urban planner, and definitely echo everything the mayor just said about the need for this project. I also just wanted to speak actually about the design. I live in this neighborhood, and I think the scale is very fitting in the neighborhood. I think the design details, I've seen this project change over the past few months, the way the setback interfaces the street, the design in terms of materials. I think it'd be a great addition to the neighborhood. I think it's very fitting with what we currently have, and it provide not just a necessary place for our residents, but a beautiful place for our residents. And I think it looks like a really good fit. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Michelle. Is there anyone else who wants an opportunity to speak at this point?
There's three more. There's Little Debs, Crystal Hines, and Kaya.
All right, let's do it in that order then. Little Debs.
Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having this conversation and opening it up to the public. I just wanted to chime in with a perspective as a business owner that has had a business for the last 6 years and has lived here for the last 11 years, almost 12. I'm sure this is nothing new to most of you here, but in the spirit of this public hearing, I felt my perspective might be welcome. This city has seen enormous change in the last 11 years, and not to mention the last 5. And as someone who has been here through the waves of change, and that also knows the city has experienced enormous change in the last 20 and 50 years, I really want to advocate for affordable housing for the community that exists and has existed here, and the families that have existed here and lived here and raised families here. I have experienced this firsthand with my own staff, not being able to live or afford living in the city anymore, even though we pay them above minimum wage and they earn good money. There's no housing anymore. So I'm here to advocate not just for them. A lot of them are newcomers, so they're last in line perhaps in terms of this argument, but also for everyone. I mean, this is an issue that affects people on all levels of life experience, not just people below the poverty line. And something's got to give. So thank you everyone for being a part of this.
Thank you very much. Good comment. Crystal Hines.
Yeah, Crystal Hines here. I've been a resident here in the city of Hudson for over 20 years now. I've been both a renter and a property owner. I understand how expensive it is to rent, and I also understand how expensive the taxes are here in the city. I certainly don't want to argue against affordable housing, but I think that the character and design of the city is what draws people here. It is part of what is Hudson. It's a beautiful little city with a bunch of cool people and some fun shops and restaurants. And I think that we need to stick true to those designs. I think that once we start departing and become looking like a Kingston or an Albany, we won't have the same draw. And without the tourism here, we don't have anything. So I think that we need to find a balance to both bring in a project that fits in with what we have existing here in the city, but also fills the needs that we have.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you very much, Crystal. Kaya, please.
Good morning. I wanted to echo what Rebecca and the mayor said, and Michelle. I feel strongly that this development is absolutely critical. I would add that I think that it totally fits within the character of the neighborhood and within the city. But more importantly, I wanted to point out that there is this narrative that someone else mentioned on their comment that the city was empty 30 years ago, that there was no one here. When, as the mayor pointed out, our population has dramatically shrunk and declined over the last 30 years. We've lost thousands, well over 1,000 residents from our city just in the last, since the last census. And the people who
Kaya, you dropped out, I believe.
I'm sorry, my call got dropped. I'm still here. The people who are losing are families and young people. And I know that firsthand as someone who runs a youth organization, employs teenagers, and supports young people and families in our community. And we have been hemorrhaging children and families from our city for the last several years. And it is an absolute crisis. We don't have time to afford, we can't afford any more time to put this off or to delay. And, you know, I will add to what Carla said, as an employer who provides, we pay very good salaries above what is average for this region. And our staff also can't find places to live in the city, and myself included. I'm currently trying to find housing and have not been able to after living here for over 20 years and always being engaged in community work. So I would argue that it is not the character of the storefronts that draws people here. It's the diversity and it's the people that draws people here, and it's also what keeps people here. Without our residents and our young people and families, we don't have a city. And we don't have time to debate over the little elements of design at this point. I think we need to acknowledge that we're in a crisis, and that once families are lost from here, we're not getting them back. And this is imperative that we pass it, and I support this project as it currently is proposed.
Thanks very much, Kaya. Any folks who wish to speak who haven't spoke?
Rebecca Wolf is one, Phil.
Rebecca?
Thank you. I just wanted to, let me put my hand down so I can focus. I just wanted to reiterate the part of my previous comment that I think might be, I'm hoping is a very significant feature of this conversation overall, which is that I see this as an incredible opportunity for the city to come together to collaborate. I understand that the HPC has a purview, and that the focus is the design, and the focus is how this project fits into the character of the neighborhood. I would ask you to really put yourself to the test as a committee to understand how can this development be worked on, for lack of a better, be developed further with the understanding of its dire importance to the city, and with all of your skills as architects, as planners, as however you come to be on this committee, whatever your talents and abilities are, to really see a vision, like for how can these buildings come to exist in this city in the right way. That is what I would hope you could do. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Rebecca. Anyone we missed? Anyone else who wishes to comment further?
Eddie Taylor.
I'm sorry.
Hi, yes, Eddie Taylor. That's my name. Good morning.
Good morning, Eddie.
I wanted to give an external perspective of sort of the byproduct of this crisis and what this means. I was recently offered an opportunity to become the chief diversity officer for a very prominent company in Hudson. And unfortunately, I had to decline the position because I was unable to move myself and my family to this wonderful city. And I think that sometimes when we're inside the bubble, we may not see or feel what it's like when you're outside the bubble. So I saw that there was this forum, and I saw this forum was happening, and I felt inspired to come and speak to this commission in regards from an external perspective of the missed opportunity. I've never in my life had to turn down a job simply because I couldn't find housing or a place to live for myself and my family. So please put that into your perspective as you're making these decisions, and understand that it affects more talent, or the inability for talent to come into this great city and help it grow and help it regain its numbers of population, as I think the mayor was referring to about this decline. And one of the things that we tend to do sometimes traditionally in small towns, because originally I'm from Western Massachusetts, what we tend to do is we look at the talent in our community and we say, you need to get out of here and go make something of yourself. And then eventually we get to a certain point in time where we all get older, we turn around to pass that torch, and there's nobody in our city to pass that torch to anymore. So be very mindful that this is not just about tourism. It's not just about getting people to come and visit the city. It's about growing the city and maintaining the city and providing a sustainable entity. And housing is just one topic. I can only imagine what else is going on if housing is this much of a crisis that we can't even sustain that and provide people with an affordable place to live. So just as an external person, I just wanted to share that love. I do love the city of Hudson. I hope one day maybe that opportunity will come back to me and present itself, and I will have the opportunity to move my family and become part of this wonderful community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eddie. Anyone we missed who wants an opportunity to comment or speak? If not, we will close the public hearing.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, who's speaking?
This is Ronald Kopnicki. Matt McGee would like to make another comment, if he may.
Sure.
Yes, thank you. Again, my name is Matt McGee. I believe that aesthetics do matter. When I was involved with Reverend Cross and talked to people in the community there, it was clear that they cared about the beauty around them, and it was part of their life. And when I walked down Warren Street with Reverend Cross, he commented on this or that building, and it was to do with their aesthetics. And aesthetics are part of our life, and they're an improvement for it. And you can still live in a beautiful building as well as you can live in an ugly building. And I don't think that that's a reasonable way to approach these buildings. I mean, they can be lived in, but they also can be aesthetically pleasing. And the other thing, there's comments about affordable housing. Now, the wage that was offered for the new hotel proposed for Fifth and Warren was the lowest wage was 34,000 something a year. Now, the previous time we discussed this building, the lowest wage you could earn to live in the building was $40,000. So a worker doing the work that the people were talking about in this hotel that's proposed could not afford to live in this building. Now, I think that that is not affordable. And so these justifications for ignoring how these buildings appear to us and just throwing anything up are wrong. The values and concerns should be for what people are paid and what housing actually costs in relation to what they're paid. And I think that not having proper illustrations for this building held up for the public to see and not putting them online 10 days in advance of this meeting and at least 3 days so that the public would have a chance to review them and understand them and react to them before they come on to speak is a just and fair thing to do. And in New York City, everything is 10 days in advance. Here, the law requires public notice 10 days in advance. And that includes notice of what is actually being proposed and it being able to be viewed in advance. This is not happening here. And in this case, the drawings were flashed on the screen after a rather lengthy presentation of things that are not being built yet. And I think there should be, I was told I could hear about this later on, but is that going to be another public meeting? Is the public going to have the right to speak? I think all of this is handled in a way to exclude people from speaking, having knowledge, understanding the facts. And I believe that justice is for us all. And I would love it to be administered in a just way for the poor with income and rentals relating. I would love for it to be just to the people who have aesthetic concerns, which I think contribute to our lives. And we need a place to live, we need to be warm, and we need beauty. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. I would ask if there are no other folks that haven't had an opportunity to speak, that we move to close the public hearing. And as I said, we are going to do a deeper dive on this project probably 15 or 20 minutes from now as we go through the agenda. That said, is there anyone I've missed? If not, may I have a motion to close the public hearing, please? Commission? Miranda, thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Jeremy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None. The public hearing is closed. We go to the regular order of business. We already jumped forward a bit. We've approved the minutes from the previous meeting. I structured this agenda in such a way that there are 4 sign applications today. And I put those up front as we usually do to move those folks quickly through the process. I'm sorry, I'm going to ask again, could somebody just put up the agenda for a second? I just want to be sure if we're missing or not missing folks to speak who have gotten their applications through code enforcement.
Hey, Phil,
Yes.
this is Craig.
Yeah, what did I miss, Craig?
There's only 3 signs.
Oh, there are.
Yeah, 253 Union's a roof project, not a sign.
253 Union is a roof?
Yeah. So the signs are Warren Street, North 7th, and Warren.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay. Let's go on to regular order of business then. We have a sign application from 226 Warren Street. Who's here to speak for 226?
That's me from Matthew Signs. Hi.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
Good. All right. So what we have, I'm going to try to share this really quick, see if I can do it. Let's see, gallery, if I can find it. I had it. Let's see. Okay. Well, I'm not seeing it now. Let's see.
Take your time.
Photos. Okay. Sorry. I don't do this often. I thought it was, oh, here it is. Oh, that's the wrong one. Hold on. Let's see. Stop share. We're going to do this again. Because I have two signs today. Photo.
Okay. In whatever order you've got is
There we go.
fine. Yeah.
There we go. All right. So there's 226. And this one is going to be a 20-inch by 36-inch double-sided MDO wood hanging sign.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Is that an existing bracket that it's hanging on, or is it new?
Yes, it is an existing bracket.
Okay. As in all these apps, they've already been vetted by code enforcement. I would ask then for a motion to find the application complete.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you very much, Paul. And a second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None. Application is approved. The city attorney will prepare a C of A for you that we will vote on in the next meeting.
Great. Thank you.
You also have Lux Optical, I believe.
Yes, yep, we have Lux.
Phil, did you?
Oh.
I'm sorry, did that motion include preparation of the C of A?
Yes.
Okay.
City attorney to prepare a C of A. That would be you, Victoria.
Okay, and then we also have the Lux Optique, and that is at 602 Warren. And this is going to be a little over 19 feet long by 14 inches tall. They are going to be aluminum pin mounted letters with brushed gold. It will not be illuminated.
I'm sorry to jump in. This one's not on the agenda. Has this one been reviewed by Craig?
Yes, or I got it from Craig.
Yes, that one is, I believe, I just found the mistake on the agenda. Where it was 253 Union Street for a sign, it should be 602 Warren Street for a sign.
Okay.
And this
So
has
six-
been reviewed.
I got it. 602 Warren is Lux Optic.
Yep, Lux Optic. Yep.
Terrific. Apologies, guys. Keep on going.
Did you say that would or wouldn't be illuminated?
It will not be illuminated.
What's that sign replacing? Is that the current size? Is that the size of the current signage?
And there actually, I believe there is no signage there currently. There is an awning, but there is no signage.
And that's an awning, not a sign.
No, this is a sign. They have an awning there, but this is going to be a sign, a pin mounted sign.
Okay.
When you say pin mounted sign, it's just the letters that are being mounted, or is there a large piece of?
So what they
Something
want to
that-
do, what they want to do is paint the facade black, and then we are just going to install the letters.
Got it.
Is the facade currently painted?
I believe it's gray.
Okay.
Anyone else? So forgive my error. This is 602 Warren Street, Lux Optic.
Yes.
May I have a motion to find the application complete?
I'll make that motion.
Paul, thank you. And a second?
Second.
Miranda, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None. Motion to approve the application and request city attorney to prepare a certificate of appropriateness.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you very much. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion is passed. Yeah, let's see what else I didn't get. Did we do 41 North 7th?
No, that's me. And I got a 227.5 Warren.
Terrific. So let's do both of those. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hey, hello guys, Tom from Next Gen Signs. How you doing today? So our first one will be 227 Warren. Screen share. Screen share.
Cream.
Yep, cream. So this here is a 1/2 inch MDO sign, 18 inch by 24 inch. Just a bone white paint with black vinyl lettering. The bracket that you see on the building there is an existing bracket. I don't know how long it's been there, but needs a little tightening up, which we'll take care of when we hang the sign. We have our over 8 foot of clearance for code, and we are under the square footage requirement. If you want to see just the sign, let's see. There's just a sign, basically. Any questions?
I have a motion to find the application complete.
I'll make that.
Paul, thank you. Who is the second?
I'll do it for me.
Thanks very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None. Application is deemed complete. Motion to approve the application and request city attorney to prepare a certificate of appropriateness.
I'll make that motion.
Paul, thank you very much. And a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None. Application is approved and the city attorney will prepare a C of A.
All right, our next project is 41/43 North 7th Street. This is a wall sign. It's gonna be placed on the upper part of the building here. This sign is actually gonna be an aluminum composite sign with raised PVC lettering. We fall within the code for square footage. We're roughly 16 square foot. We're allowed up to like a 40 something because of the facade. Here's a close-up of the sign. It will not be illuminated. We are hoping that the lights, if you look in this picture here, oh no, wrong picture. So looking at this picture here, we're hoping there's two little pocket lights up here that are going to put enough light on this sign that we won't need any additional sign or lighting on the sign or have it illuminated. Any questions on this one?
Okay. Thank you. So that's 227.5 Warren Street.
No, this is the 41/43 North 7th Street.
I see. Doing good. Okay. I think we've covered all the signs. May I have a motion to find the application complete?
I'll
Paul,
make that motion.
Hugh, thank you. And a second from Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Application is deemed complete. Motion to approve the application and request city attorney to prepare a C of A.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeremy. In a second.
I'll
Hugh,
second.
Complicated question. No, I'm actually a nutmegger.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Approved, and the city attorney will prepare a C of A.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for coming in today.
Yep, no problem. Have a good weekend.
All right, as promised, we can go back to a detailed discussion of Depot District and any questions or concerns from the commission. Is Chip here, by the way?
No, he's not.
Okay. He had said he was going to try to log in from, I think he's down in Annapolis. I'm sorry about that. He adds.
I am here. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
you are. Oh, we didn't see it, Chap.
Yeah, I'm on my phone and I have been listening to the presentations so far. So I am here and anticipating to continue.
Okay. Terrific. Thanks very much. Walter?
Yes.
Are you good? So there's some interest in zeroing in at the next level of detail on the two significant structures.
Okay, so I will attempt to share my screen now and find the right one. Yes, good. Okay, just before I start in, I'd like to make a couple comments. You know, I appreciate the public comments and I don't entirely disagree with most of what was said. I would like to say to some comments that we've spent almost 2 years studying this. There is a 50-page booklet that details the neighborhood, characteristics, materials. If we are failing on any level, it is not for want of trying. And with that, I think, by the way, I think the board has that booklet that was prepared a while ago that looks at the neighborhood and explains the history. I'd be happy to share that with the public. I think there's a great deal of understanding on the part of the board about what we're doing here, and maybe the public doesn't understand. So I would like to say, even to the supporters of this project, that I heartily support the goals of the HPC in making this beautiful. I think my sense from talking to HPC is everyone on this board understands how important housing is, but we all understand that we don't want to wreck the city. And some of the comments made today, I appreciate. We're trying not to wreck the city. Thank you. Okay, so let's move forward. So just a little background, and Phil, maybe you remember this. We attempted to submit this originally to the HPC over a year ago. And a lot of my flat-footedness and my inattentiveness to filling everybody in is simply my inability to remember what you have and have not seen. So I very much apologize, but we've made a very concerted effort to be transparent and keep everybody informed. This was the original idea for this building on the west side, number 75. And originally we had tried to break it into what appeared to be going down the street more than one building. And, you know, there was an attempt to break up the storefront. Subsequent iterations of the building that emerged didn't have that same quality. So when I seem to be rushing through, and I apologize, I think we'd established overall the general characteristic of the buildings. And now we're down to the question of what the storefront quality is, what the experience at the street is, I think. So to that point, these were the old drawings and the materials again. And then just, you know, I was trying in my presentation before to the public to make clear that we had started with a more on the, just using this as an example, we have, it doesn't read well in this building, but there are 2 volumes that come out. So when you go down the street, these 2 volumes are what you see. You do not see this, you do not see this. And actually we got rid of that part. And then Chip specifically, but the board in general had commented that this was an extremely horizontal composition. And when you looked at it, it didn't feel like Hudson. And I agree with that. It looks like what's called a podium building, where you have a commercial ground floor and a residential building on top. So perhaps not the best illustration in the world, but this is attempting to show taking away the horizontality, letting the brick come down to the street, which is, I think, very important, and creating storefronts with spaces in between. And let me just zoom in a little bit. Hopefully this is helpful. Sorry, I have so many things here. I can't get to my Zoom function. Give me 1 second. Here we are. Okay. Are you all still seeing my screen? Is it zooming in?
Yes.
So, oops, sorry. Oh my goodness.
It wants to zoom a lot.
Yeah, I can't, I can't seem to control this as well as I should. Anyway, so you can see
Not
when
bad.
you zoom into the drawings, there is quite a bit of detail on the drawings. And again, to some of the comments that we don't want a slapdash building, neither do we. So the idea here is, as I'm saying, to break up the storefront by allowing the building to come down. We've gotten much more casual about the plan so that the storefronts and the windows above don't necessarily line up. This is all very Hudson. These are things we've observed going around the city. The idea for the storefronts, which I've just shown as white, is they could be made out of a nice metal with wood accents. They could look industrial or they could be classical. Their character could vary and they could be different colors. And then we would have hopefully wood storefront in between, so that that would be a very Hudson detail. And overall, we're trying to find a way to vary what are going to have to be, for economic reasons, a very standardized set of materials in a fairly limited palette. Okay, now let's see if I can zoom out of that. Sorry.
You're doing, Walter, while you're pulling that up, are these footprints the new footprints that are being proposed, or are these the old footprints?
These reflect the footprints that are in our site plan amendment, which will be presented to the planning board on Tuesday.
Correct.
Okay, I
And-
just want to make sure we're looking at the most recent.
And again, I really apologize. I have to say, we did get pushed back a couple of times, and we're in process. We're trying to finish these buildings. And so a lot of this information is trying to be coordinated, you know, at a fairly dynamic moment. And we don't know what the outcome of this process is going to be yet. So that is just to say that bear with us. We're trying to get all of the really important questions resolved. And then storefront details, all of these things, I would suggest, if it's appropriate, maybe we could get the overall buildings looked at, and then the storefronts and so forth, we could come back when we have a, you know, because we haven't detailed anything yet. So again, just trying to take you through the
Walter,
Yes.
it's Phil. I mean, that is a question. As you've been working with us a while and know a great deal about this commission as well as planning. This ends up being about the specifics at the end of the day, and some of these aesthetic issues, as I understand from what you're saying, are still in flight. That there are unsettled issues as regards materials and others.
Well, really just because of questions that were raised at our last.
No, I
visit.
know, and
You
you're
know,
trying to
so-
be responsive
so
to
the-
us.
The question is yes. The answer is yes. We're proposing a new set of elevations here that reflect more of what we think we were asked to reflect. They're more casual. The number of windows have been reduced, which was a reflection of the plans, but it's showing up very nicely, I think, on the elevations. And again, you know, take it where you wish. I feel like we have a coherent presentation of two large volume buildings with material specified in front of you. You know, if you accept the designs today, we can canonize them. If not, we'll modify them as requested. That's all I can say.
Okay. So for example, Walter, you would be okay if we accepted the design as presented, but there could be outstanding issues on material selection, et cetera, TBD.
I would like to say, and Dan, you can chime in anytime appropriate, that would make sense to me. I like working with this committee. I have no problem. And I think every time we meet, the building gets better. So if we can decide we think the overall thing is okay, but we need to fiddle, let's do that.
Okay.
I mean, I think my preference would be let's walk through any questions the HPC has and any material specifications. And, you know, we can, I think what Walter's saying is we're open to feedback. And if we can arrive at decisions in this meeting and then get a certificate of appropriateness, you know, that's really our objective. But, you know, we wanted to come here with an expression of an open mind to input on some of these final specifications as it relates to storefronts and other areas of interest.
I understand. Thank you very much, Dan. Commissioners,
so
I think what Walter's proposing is that it would help him go through this if we begin to have some questions about some of these details. Chip, I was counting on you.
Me too.
I'm here.
Okay. So the folks are asking for questions.
Walter, thank you very much. Really appreciate your engaging the commission and wanting to make this project as good as it can be. And I think that's a common goal for all of us. Many of the public comments that were made, I think we can agree with almost all of them, except that really what we're working with, as we're working with the applicant and with Walter, we're not looking at, we don't have to have an either or here. It's not one thing or another. We can make this building can be very serviceable, very appropriate, and still very handsome, and a positive impact in the city, both for its function and also for its aesthetics. So I don't think we need to exclude one thing or the other to make this successful. And again, Walter, thank you again so much for your effort at design revision, alternatives, and your willingness to engage in a very, very cooperative way. It's just super positive for the city. Looking at this from an architectural point of view, and looking at this, we look at this from the question that is to be answered by the Preservation Commission, and that is what is being proposed, is it appropriate to the unique nature of Hudson from an architectural point of view, from an appearance point of view, from a street point of view, from a public presentation point of view? How does it present itself to the public, and is that presentation appropriate? As Phil pointed out, we don't really have this discussion so much about use, although as the mayor has pointed out, it really is interchangeable here. But our ultimate question that we're answering is it appropriate to the unique physical architectural nature of Hudson? And so I just want to comment on a couple things that we've gone through that Walter's gone through in refinement and so forth. First of all, I think that, as was commented at the last meeting, the proportion of the windows and the relationship of the solid and void of this building is something that is that can stand to have more, I think, more refinement and more attention architecturally. The windows, because they've been reduced in size and they've been reduced in number, particularly if we look at the as you have the north elevation, what you're on your share screen right now is very useful, Walter. the windows of the 4 floors above the commercial level, those windows appear all to be the same. They're not graded in height from top to bottom, which is what we frequently see throughout the city. Because of the articulation of the mansard roof in this design, there is a bit of an optical illusion that the top floor windows appear to be slightly larger than the bottom, than the second through fourth floor windows. I think that the static nature of the relationship of windows to solid wall in this elevation needs more variation. It needs more variation in the relationship of solid to void. It needs more variation in the spacing between the windows, and I think it needs more variation in the size of the windows that can happen vertically and horizontally. Now, when we talked about this at the last meeting, the response from Walter was, well, this is subsidized housing and it has to be a tight budget and so on and so forth. Well, that may be true, and there may be an assumed altruistic component to this project. However, if we all know, if we don't make really good housing, whether it's a single family home or whether it's a multi-family home as this is, if we don't make good housing that's attractive, that's a good place for people to live, that's a positive, healthy environment, if we don't make that, the project will not be sustainable and it will not be successful. We need to measure this in terms of, will this be a place that people will want to live in 25 years, in 50 years, in 75 years? And so I think that attention should be given to the aesthetics of this to make it an attractive place, an attractive and healthy place to live, and not just a reduced, not an admittedly reduced level of quality because it is subsidized housing. We look at other parts of this in a similar sort of way, and that is the overall massing and the overall silhouette of the building. Here we see in this North 7th Street elevation the static nature of the silhouette in this elevation is quite uncharacteristic of Hudson. We have a lot of variation in the silhouette, in the way that the building reaches the sky, the way that this building, the way that buildings look from a distance, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, 4 blocks away, how that building touches the sky, and the variation on which it touches the sky is really a hallmark of Hudson. We have just great variety of the way, the heights of buildings and the types of roofs that they have. And you have started to address this some previously on the opposite side of the street in the other project. You could hold that right there. Actually, yes, right there. Thank you. Here we have in this screen that you're sharing, thank you, Walter, you begin to show that variation, which if it's, as I mentioned at the last meeting, it's very, very difficult to do this successfully so that it doesn't look like Disneyland, so that it doesn't look like a suburban strip mall. It's really hard to do that without architecturally crafting idiosyncrasy into this building. It has too much uniformity of approach and too much uniformity of use of materials. For instance, I do think that the overuse of synthetic materials will be very detrimental to the quality of this building. This is a very, very large mass that will create a canyon on both a canyon street that will be heavily defined by this overuse of synthetic materials. And I don't think that the synthetic materials are all that convincing. I think that they will be recognized for what they are. And so I think that looking at more genuine materials, more natural and authentic, if you will, materials rather than synthetic materials, I think is an important issue to address as you move forward with the design refinement. One of the elements that's been discussed is zoning and the application of zoning on this. And while it meets the letter of the law relative to zoning, I think that it's important for us all to remember that zoning is a very, very broad brush. It is just an initial application, really, of height and bulk and use. And what we need in architectural design is not a building that just meets zoning. Meeting zoning is not meeting appropriateness. Accomplishing a positive zoning regulation does not accomplish a positive, appropriate designation. And so I think it's important for the board to remember that zoning does not equal appropriateness. And the next thing I would like to mention is that as you go forward with refining this, as mentioned with the massing, I think that you have an elevation view sketch of the alley. I think it's titled The Alley, Walter. There you go. Yeah, I think you tried to maybe, this elevation, I think, is, you're showing a change of grade that is a natural change of grade from 7th Street down going toward the Pocketbook Factory. And, or I should say, going toward the houses that are on the opposite side of the street of the Pocketbook Factory. The single family homes that are in between the proposed project and the Pocketbook Factory, it would be very useful to see them in scale here. I don't quite understand in that drawing the small rectangle that is to the left of the building on that alley view side. I seem to have lost your Walter. I seem to have lost your screen sharing.
Yes, sorry, I'm trying to share screen now. I'm trying to get the video up, Chip, so that you can look at that. Hold on one sec.
One of the things that I think that the commission needs to look at, and there was some discussion about having a site visit to look at the nature of this, of the site and the nature of the proposed. I think one element of concern is the impact on the single family homes that are between this project and the Pocketbook Factory. Those are, and particularly in the previous elevation drawing showing the alley view, I fear what would be really useful in that elevation drawing would be if you continued the grade over to 6th Street and showed the Pocketbook Factory in that elevation. If it's like a building cross section, or actually the building elevation of the Pocketbook Factory would be very illustrative to look at the proportion of window to wall opening. One of the things that I would really encourage us to think about is two of the examples that you've used as part of the overall massing and justification for the height and the bulk of this. And they're excellent examples to use. The Pocketbook Factory and the Gifford Wood offices. Those are really, really handsome buildings. Handsome buildings. And they were built for the long haul. They were built for a long purpose, for a long life. And they used original materials, and they used, and they were very generous. In fact, the Pocketbook Factory is amazing how transparent the Pocketbook Factory is through the building. You can see the daylight coming in the other side of the Pocketbook Factory from almost every side of the Pocketbook Factory. That transparency will not, I fear, occur in the proposed buildings because the windows are so small. The interior is naturally, of course, subdivided for the dwelling units and so forth. So I'd really like the commission to have a word in the back of our minds, the word handsome. If we can make a handsome building like the Gifford Wood and like the Pocketbook Factory, I think that this project could be very, very successful and accomplish both the functional aspect of what's required and what's necessary and what's needed for the community, and also be a place that will sustain housing for many, many generations. I would encourage you to look at stepping down the massing as it goes across the alley, as in the previous view, and to vary as much as possible these super blocks. Sorry for, I don't mean to put a word on that that's inappropriate, but
may I interrupt 1 second? Are you seeing my screen now with the 3D on it?
yes.
Okay, because go ahead. Sorry, I just want to make sure that was, yeah.
No, go. I'm really, I've really kind of gone through most of my notes here, Walter. So please proceed with this. I think is very, very helpful to have the 3D. If you'd like to walk us through this, it would be terrific.
Okay, but I feel that I get to refute anything I disagree with in your statements. Is that fair?
Of course. Of
Okay,
course.
I disagree with everything you said with due respect. I believe that the illustration on the screen clearly demonstrates that the Pocket Factory dominates much more than our buildings, as does the theater building. I did study the facade window spacing question intensely. We did try varying. The first thing we tried, Michelangelo defined the proportions, so I know that well from architecture school, graduating the windows up. Look at the Pocketbook Factory, Chip. The windows, 100%, I think they varied 2 windows on the entire facade. It's part of the industrial aesthetic. The constant spacing between vertical and horizontals is what defines a industrial building. So what we tried to do, right or wrong, is make things that had more of an industrial character. And I thought at our last meeting, you all were pushing against the parts of the building that were too kind of namby-pamby residential. So I was trying to make it a little tougher. I think in this case, you're wrong. I think the proportions, in spite of my bad drawings and the frontality of those elevations, are going to be very, very handsome. And I will continue to refine them in terms of detailing. But I got to tell you, I'm a year and a half into this. I don't think these elevations are going to get a lot better. And I think we have to go with the massing that we've defined, because that's what the buildings need. So I would ask you all, please, up or down, evaluate what we've done, see if you think it's a disaster. And obviously, if it is, let's start all over again. But please look at this illustration. Look at the existing buildings, the housing that Chip's talking about behind it, the distances involved, how dominant that big old school building that's now a county office is in the foreground. I think you all are off base. I'm sorry, I do this for a lot of my days, and I've just been working on this far too long to agree with most of what was just said. So thank you. And I'll keep flying through, and then I guess everybody else can say what they think.
Walter?
Yeah.
It's Phil. I just want to roll back to some of the other comments, or unless you want to wait on that. I was intrigued by some of Chip's comments as it related to creating a certain amount of disruption or change elements relative to symmetry. And I'm hearing now that may be a contradiction of the industrial feeling that you were actually trying to create as it related to the neighborhood. Similarly, in materials, trying to reach maybe a little deeper into more original or base materials, which arguably would be consistent with some of the other large structures. Any comment on that, or you want to move on to what you want to move on to?
No, I think that's a really good point. And the synthetic word appeared only on that rubber roofing, and that's the same roofing we used on the depot. So we were going to try and tie that building, you know, rightly or wrongly, to the depot. A number of people stopped by the depot and asked, you know, what kind of slate that is. So
right,
I don't know.
Forget the roofing. I'm thinking more facade and what the street presentation.
You know, we're hoping to mix bricks, and you know, we've put in some brick color proposals, and we can get you samples and so forth. There are some technical problems. You know, the HCR has requirements we're going to have to meet, and so, you know, I mean, Dan, I think you should probably address this a little bit, because I could see if we have to resolve every issue that we need to resolve to get the construction documents done, we can't move forward to get the construction documents done without this approval. How do you see us kind of repositioning this so we could possibly, you know, in other words, the materials, I don't know what to say. If you're not satisfied with what we're showing, we can keep looking at it, but can we get a tentative approval subject to a materials approval, for instance? You know, in other words, I'm saying carve out whatever you need to carve out. But if you can, give us a certificate of appropriateness that Dan needs. So as many people said today, that much needed housing can go forward.
I'd like to propose that we go back to the elevations and have a discussion with the full commission about what's actually there on paper in front of us, the previous design and the current changes to it. I know, Walter, that you worked hard in this new version to take on board the question of verticality versus horizontal. And I think breaking up the facade the way you did and you've succeeded in making it more vertical. I'm wondering, though, whether in the process it's become so industrial that it becomes less like a residential building and more like a factory, and whether there are elements of the previous aesthetic that might work better than what you're currently proposing. I don't know how the rest of the commission feels about that, I'd love to hear. But, you know, I do think that we all agree that this housing is essential, and the comments that were made in the public hearing about the need for affordable housing in Hudson, we have no dispute with that. We all are on the same page. We're just trying to come up, you know, to approach the aesthetic issues of this in such a way that it will be a to use Chip's word, handsome addition and really the cornerstone of a new neighborhood in Hudson, which is an exciting prospect.
I would echo everything that Miranda just said. I would say one other thing. This is by far the largest thing that's ever, I understand, Walter, you've been working on this for 1.5 years, but this is by far the largest thing that ever has come before us and ever will. It is enormous new housing in the historic district, an enormous new building, forget its purpose, in the historic district. It is new construction, which is always a thorny problem within the historic district. So I would say that we do need to pause. I love the suggestion of looking at it again. And that if it is difficult, it is because it is gargantuan in scope for what we normally take on. And in its impact for Hudson will be for generations. And we've described why that's a positive thing, because yes, we do absolutely want this housing for generations, but we also want it to be appropriate for this new district for generations.
Totally agree with that. One comment. Can you all see these elevations that are in front of you?
Yes.
Okay, so that was the original view down the street that we were proposing, and you can see it had a different base. We've taken away that base. The other thing that's different was at this point we were planning to have what are called PTAC, you know, those through wall heating units, and we're not using those anymore. So interestingly, when those went away, we had to deal with the proportions. And apropos Chip's point, I tried varying the size of the windows. We tried all those fakey brick things that people do with color and stuff to make it look like the windows are bigger than they are. And in the end, I decided the honestly good thing to do was to not fake anything up, make the windows, which I realize in our elevations look small, but they're quite enormous for public, you know, for housing. And it's not public housing, for housing. And you know, so there's just been a constant set of adjustments as technical information came up. The value engineers didn't like the little chimneys I had on the buildings, et cetera. But has the building changed fundamentally in 1.5 years? I would say it has not. The windows were all the same size. The spacing between the windows was always the same. You know, it might be hitting for the first time because the PTAC units are gone and we can add some graphics back in. But I went to Kingston and Poughkeepsie and looked at public housing, and I looked at all the fake things they do to make the windows look better. And I came away convinced that if we have a nice brick wall with a nice window with a brick mold. So that's it. So I want to be clean and honest. And that's what I thought you were encouraging me to do last time. So that's why I'm reacting.
Understood.
Okay, let's hold on this image for a moment. This is the prior design for the building that's on.
Yes, that we were looking at
708 State
the
Side.
new colored one. Yeah, same elevation with a different treatment.
So this is with the PTAC units.
Yes.
Okay, now show us your revised design for this same building, please, the same elevation. Okay.
So also, Miranda, the units got designed and there are fewer windows. That's the other thing.
Yes.
Which I thought you all would like. I thought this looks like a smaller building, especially in Parallax. I mean, this is an ugly elevation because it's completely frontal. It has no shadow. You don't see what sets back. You don't see the lovely, I mean, you know, if you look at 501 Union Street, which is a standing example, by the way, those windows are all the same size going up the facade. this is pretty much a copy of that in many respects. The proportions have changed because of the units, but I actually think this is on the way to being a handsome building. I'm going to stick by that.
Talk to us about the roof line, Walter. Is the mansard recessed or is it flush with the cornice?
So it's a true mansard, and like 501 Union, it goes back. You can see it angles up to that point where it breaks to go back, and so there are two wings coming out at you. You can see it in the plan below. See above west elevation.
Yeah.
So the dark line, I'm sorry, that graphic's a little terrible, is actually the mansarded part of the roof. So you can see how those two wings come out, and now the storefront also is set back, and then the building is further past the storefront. So I don't know, you could see in the perspective, it pretty much disappears going up the street. All you see are the two, you see this block and this block in the perspective. This is not visible.
Yeah, I imagine in 3D, it almost looks like an assemblage of four buildings, kind of abutting each other at different depths. And so it feels more like you're walking down a street in Hudson as opposed to this solid wall that you're confronting.
Well, that, I mean, again, to Chip's point, and Chip made some excellent points, even if I don't agree with them. The building on the west side was deliberately designed to look like a couple of buildings that had come together. This one on the east side was designed to look like some kind of big old structure that had been repurposed, because that seemed to be more authentic. And again, if you look at the 3D, the scale of this building is totally in scale with the Pocketbook Factory and some other things. And, I can't help that it's a 5-story building. What can I say? But it does back into the hillside. So it's going to look like 4 stories from the east. And we've tried to take advantage of that, what Chip called a canyon. You see, some people who live in Arkansas would come to Warren Street and describe that as a canyon. I think we could have one little urban moment where you have what is described as an ideal street section, which is a slightly vertical above the square section, which is what we've got here. I mean, honestly, I think this could be kind of cool. So that's my point of view. Obviously, the architect is always going to say that, but in this case, I believe it.
How deep are the recesses? I'm looking at this little scheme at the bottom here where you show.
So the storefront sets back 3 feet and the upper part sets back 10 feet. And unfortunately, the 3D model, is very complicated putting that together. So we didn't quite get that to work. But the important thing in that model is the upper parts of the setbacks are not set back as far as they would be. They're shown with the storefront, but you'll immediately see when we have the street view that until you get up on the building, you don't see them at all. And that's a key to a lot of big buildings' successful design. They hide themselves from parts of the building, hide other parts.
And talk to me about the blue facades here. Is that a kind of material that you're thinking about using?
So I apologize. That was supposed to be more of a kind of charcoal gray. And I can see now the color didn't quite work the way I'd wanted to, but that was an idea that we could use a glazed brick on the storefront. Now, again, I don't think you guys do color. So I'm going to say regular brick above and glazed brick on the parts that look like blue. And it might be a charcoal gray or it could be like a dark blue. I saw a building that had a beautiful green recently. But again, it would just be a way to make a surprise. You come down the street and all of a sudden you see this amazing thing. And we would like flexibility moving forward because nobody's talked about the color yet. So please just imagine that these colors are stand-ins for actual awnings and brick colors that will be selected.
I wasn't really so concerned about the color. I was wondering.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so those are the 3-foot sections that are set in, and they were distinguished to make it look very like they are even more recessed than they are. If they're a dark color, I think they'll tend to. And then let me just say, this is very important because we're showing you the architecture. I did submit the civil plans. There's extensive landscaping proposed for this entire thing. So unfortunately, you're not going to see a lot of these beautiful buildings during the tree season. And seriously, that's an important part of the concept, because when people say make it like Hudson, Hudson is brick buildings with trees in front of them.
Generally, I do find the changes that you've made here in terms of running the brick to the ground and removing that base that you showed earlier as being more successful. I think it does feel more aligned with and a little less formal. I think you use that word too, and I think that's right. I think what we may be responding to is the lack of improvisation in it. You know, part of Hudson is walking down the street and seeing a wonky window and all these things. And listen, we're not trying to recreate that, and we should never be planning to do that. It's that fine line of having it fit in and not be a replica and false. So I realize you're trying to straddle those things.
I totally get that. And, you know, there's this hysterical thing. There's a housing development called Pessac outside of Paris. It was done by the great modernist Le Corbusier in the 1920s as ideal workers' housing. And he went back 10 years later to this modern masterpiece he'd done, and it looked like a Normandy village with flowers growing out of wrought iron balconies, and they'd put roofs on all the flat roof buildings and everything. This will change. This is like an armature, like every building in Hudson. If we get the proportions and the storefront and the windows right, it'll change a lot. The awnings will change, signs, the signage companies come through every month, you know? So let's get it right together, but also let's give the people building the building the flexibility to move forward with what they need to move forward with.
Commissioners, any other thoughts? Walter, we're focusing on this specific building. Should we be looking at the other building as well, or?
I'm so sorry.
First, and then go to the other one.
Yeah, again, it's really, yes. So
some kind of conclusion about this building.
Okay.
Okay.
Would it be helpful for me to go back to that little video again to look at this going down the street, or do you all, I mean, I'm uncomfortable with this elevation myself because as some member of the public commented, this doesn't look like Hudson at all. But, you know, if you looked at a front elevation of part of Warren Street, it would also be very flat. So
Yeah, would you mind, Walter, would you mind doing that animation again, please?
Yeah, let's do that. I'm getting better at screen sharing now.
You've gotten excellent.
And I can stop this at any point if somebody says stop. Let's see, I'll start it back at the beginning. Okay, so. So again, just to beat it to death, as you go down the street, you see how it does look like pairs of buildings rather than big monoliths. And that's so important to how this is going to succeed. And then, as I say, the building on the right, unfortunately, in this perspective, it's not set back fully.
Walter, I'm not sure we're seeing the animation. We're just seeing a still of the aerial view.
Oh.
Did you share the app or did you share the whole screen?
Okay, now hold on. Let me try this again. Sorry, I was being cocky and look what happened. Are you seeing my screen now?
No.
No, not yet.
Okay. What about now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you
Oh,
can see
boy.
aerial view and your cursor.
Great, okay. So did it move? Did you see the aerial view? Is it
No.
moving now?
Just the aerial view.
It's not moving now?
No.
No, it's static.
Close that file and open it again because I see there's a cursor stuck on the image too.
Okay, all right, so let's try something else. Now? Yes?
Well, it's the aerial and your cursor, but it's not the animation.
Okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to, are you still seeing that on my screen? No. Okay, so.
Walter, when you share, are you sharing the specific app you need or your whole desktop? It asks you to choose a screen when you
Yes,
share.
I thought I was choosing my screen, and that's how to do it, right?
I can try to share it, Walter. You want me to give it a go?
Let me try it one last time and then yes, please. Is that working?
Well, again, it's the aerial.
Still not moving, yeah.
It says, I'm getting a fly through and it says participants can see your screen. So whatever I'm doing, I'm going to stop sharing. And Dan, yes, please.
Let me try.
If you don't mind, I'm so sorry.
It's fine.
How frustrating.
Okay. Everyone seeing my screen here? Is it moving?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, success.
Thank you.
I'll pause if anyone needs me to stop anywhere.
And could you pause about now, please?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And maybe just about now, if you could just pause, thank you.
Yep.
So again, almost identical to that perspective view that we put out a while ago. You know, it hasn't changed really.
Okay, thank you. You can move on. Thank you.
See how huge the central fire station is.
Would you like me to run through it again or should I stop sharing?
Anyone? I'm satisfied.
Okay.
Great.
I think we're good. Thank you, Dan.
Sure thing.
Do you want me to go back to sharing my screen?
Yes, please, if you can go back to the elevations.
Okay.
I mean, I think the issue is that for the purpose of the building and the design of the building, as Walter's pointed out, it really hasn't changed substantially in terms of the mass of the building. Question that we're and it's not going to because it has use requirements. So I think our job is to look at the design and see if we think, given the mass of this building, that this design is appropriate to the rest of Hudson, and if not, what suggestions would we make? I think the cornice across the top is a good detail on this. It recalls the wonderful cornices that exist all around Hudson without looking fake. I think it makes a connection to the historic architecture without trying to be a Disney version of a historic building. I think that's a good feature, and especially combined with the more vertical. And I think that the verticality is going to show even more with the recesses that exist now. So it really will be like for tall buildings that have this common element that runs across all of them, but is not overwhelming. I think that's a good thing.
One exception I take with your comments there are by saying that the massing is what the massing is because of the function of what it is, and that the massing isn't going to change. That could appear to be that we are accepting the massing by default. We're just saying, well, the massing is what the massing is. And I think that where we are with the potential for the architectural improvement to this to the proposal would require addressing massing.
How would you see that happening, Chip?
Well, the point that Walter is making is perfectly valid relative to when we're looking at the flat elevation of 7th Street, North 7th Street. That flat elevation, Walter is saying, well, this is just a flat drawing. It has depth. The upper story step back 10 feet. The storefronts are back 3 feet. When we looked at this in the previous 3D at the previous meeting, we had discussion about the potential for windows turning the corner, which at that 10-foot indent, if you will. And we're just not seeing this. I'm saying that to remind everyone that we had this conversation. I think that looking at this in 3D is really important, and the step back and accurate presentation of the step back and is very, very useful. And Walter's saying that has not been quite edited yet, if I understand what you're saying, Walter.
I was really just apologizing for my poor choice of colors, but there's always room for improvement. Chip, the question of putting windows on the side was an excellent suggestion, and we looked at it. And the first thing we realized is Mrs. Smith is going to be looking at Mr. Jones's living room, so it just wasn't viable. If you want us to put blind niches on there, I've introduced some blind niches on the south elevation of the 75 building for the same reason. We could do that, but it's not from an apartment standpoint sensible. I'm sorry. It's just an inside corner never works in a residential building.
Well, I think I would take exception with that. If you look throughout Hudson, there are a lot of situations where Mrs. Jones is looking into Mr. Johnson's window. I mean, there are lots of corner windows, and there are lots of near. Not all windows have the same form of privacy throughout Hudson. Again, that's one of the idiosyncrasies that I think that would improve this the proposal. But I do want to say, Walter, that removing the mechanical units out of the wall is a very, very important improvement that you've made, and I think that does change the appearance of this building significantly. That was a really, really good move.
Yes, thank you. You've gave us some good suggestions. I just want to say we tried replacing those with something visual to make the building look more than it did. And I just really don't think anything that they actually build is going to be satisfactory. I think if we can keep this really simple and focus on a few key details, we can have the project that everybody wants.
I think looking at this elevation in 3D would be super helpful for the commission.
Okay.
I agree. Yes.
So the fly through doesn't quite cut it. You want something a little bit more, do you want something rendered? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think the previous 3D that you had, or maybe it was a static renovation, maybe it was a static
It was a rendering.
rendering. Maybe that was it. You know, even that would be helpful to get an understanding of
I'm going to do that. We found with the rendering, the renderer added their own particular spin, and I think that was one of the things you were reacting to. So I'm going to do more of a homemade rendering next time, but I think that's a good point. I'm happy to do that.
do we have in the application, do we have the site plan that illustrates the accessory uses that are you have developed a courtyard in some areas, correct? And we're kind of concentrating on the street fronts in this presentation and in this discussion. I wonder if we could look at the other improvements on the site and the other elevations in detail as well.
Yes, if you don't mind, why don't we do the elevation? And then I had sent you, and I'm happy to open a copy of the civil engineering submittal for the planning board approval. And that has the site improvements, the landscaping, the lighting. So you have all of that. I'm happy to go through it. But to Miranda's point, you know, we talked about this one, and Matt McGee was concerned we hadn't really dwelled on this adequately. So can we look at this briefly, and then we can move wherever you guys want? This is the North 7th Street across the street. So this is not a colored rendering, but this is the drawing that faces opposite the one we were just looking at that's color. And here, Chip, I think you can remember, if you can see my cursor, we had a storefront running all the way across. And, you know, last time in the rendering. And so now we've pushed this back with a roof. We've got a canopy sticking out. We've introduced blade signs and some more refinements. And per your request, I think we'd done this a little bit before, but we actually have supplied you with all of the other elevations of the building, so you can go all the way around. And then, I don't know, do you want to talk about the facade across the street for a second, or what would you like to do? Keep
Well,
going.
I do think taking out the horizontal that went all the way across the whole building, giving each section its own face to the street is a real improvement. I like that.
I agree.
I agree as well.
Great. Do you want me to go to the civil drawings? Or go through the elevations? What would be most useful?
Why don't you just, while you've got these elevations and we're looking at this building, let's do the building.
Okay, great. So just starting back here, this would be the street front facing west, the number 76, we're now calling it. This is the building on the 708 State Street site. These are nice, I think, showing the street section. This is looking, the top one is looking from the 7th Street Park north, and you can see we have a little bit of a storefront, and we have an area of blank wall that we have the opportunity to introduce one of those great painted signs that you see in Old Hudson, or we can just leave it blank. On the left, you can see there are 2 windows where I gave it my beloved treatment from the Alger house of 2 blanks to just have brick blanks there. Again, I think that's very Hudson. The canopies, I'm hoping that's all very Hudson. And, you know, to Chip's point, and I think it's a good one, these buildings meet the street coherently, I hope, But then when you go to the left and right, you can see you've got very, very different conditions. The hill is going up on the right and down on the left. And so hopefully the buildings and the way that they meet the street are consistent with that. So this is, we just looked at. Just looked at this in a little bit more detail. Now this is good. This is the back side of number 75, and it's almost identical above street level to the front. And that's very deliberate because you're going to see it from all sides. And I'm sorry I forgot to say this earlier because it's so important. All these great old buildings we talk about all have 4 sides treated properly. Modern buildings, including most apartment buildings, you get a front facade on the street, and then you go to the B list of materials on the alley and the C list on the back. So folks, we're not doing that. We're going to have nice housing, and it's going to be the same treatment all the way around the building. I think that's huge. You do not see that. I promise you, check it out. Same thing here. This will be the lower floors will be completely obliterated by the central fire station, but the upper floors will be visible. And so those will get the same, nice treatment with panels between the windows and so forth. That one we've beaten to death. I must say it looks much better without color because you can see the proportions. And, I rarely disagree with Chip, but having beaten myself to death on these proportions, I kind of thought they were looking very good. And I would say this, that you will never see this building from this view because we're too far away and number 75. So this building has been designed to be seen sideways. And so all these proportions, as the 3D perspective, the animated shows, they will compress in parallax. So elevations lie. This building will look much more vertical than this, I promise.
It's interesting, Walter, that black and white is significantly easier to see the variation at each level than the rendering with the color blocks. I guess they just distracted visually, and it's just a rendering, but.
Yeah, and Chip makes excellent points. The gradation of the windows is really effective on buildings where they control the proportion of glass to window. Here, I really struggled with trying to make the windows different sizes, and I really am going to stand by it. And I think you can see it here. It has a balance and a kind of ease, which I think when you stand on the street, things get smaller as they go up anyway. So I believe it will do what Chip wants naturally. We'll see. If I'm wrong, he can call me a terrible architect.
No, he won't do that. What I'm struggling to figure out a way forward in terms of what outstanding issues are. I know that you're looking to be able to go to the next stage of detail, and specifically on these 2 structures. So somebody correct me, but I think we're just focusing on these 2 structures, and we're focusing or trying to focus on what we can agree to at this point. If there are outstanding issues or levels of detail, and there will be, we'll get there. And is that a correct understanding, or am I off?
Yes, so it's just these 2 buildings under review, 75 North 7th and what we're now calling 76 North 7th, which is the building on the 708 state property. And our objective is to get a certificate of appropriateness for both buildings, with the understanding that, we want to find ways to incorporate all of the feedback. And I think the initial feedback we've gotten so far has really improved these buildings quite a bit already. So that's our objective. I think the question for the Historic Preservation Commission is, how much flexibility are you willing to grant us? What level of detail are you requiring in order to issue a certificate of appropriateness for these 2 buildings?
So let's start with what it is that we're looking at, and forgive me, I've no unique skill at this whatsoever, but the roof and related structure, as well as the decorative detail underneath, the fenestration, the relative proportion of windows, the retail or street area on the other drawing, and so on. If those things were agreed with in concept, and it was understood that going forward, there could be changes. You might want to present or should present at some point a little more specificity on the materials if that's relevant, et cetera. You could work with, if there were approval to go forward on the major elements that we're looking at, would this be helpful in being able to move forward with more detail to bring back to us so we understood it at a more granular level? Or again, am I kidding myself?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, you know, with a clear understanding of what additional specifications the board would want to review at a future date. I mean, the preference for me would be to just answer your questions and, you know, have
incorporate that, I know.
Yeah, so I
It's never
think
quite
maybe
that
if you could
smooth.
give us a sense of what are the specific areas where the board would like to see more information.
I gotta lean on what's troubling me right now is that I don't have that many serious problems with what you're presenting. I understand that that in the real world, this is going to look different and experienced differently. I understand that the scale of the neighborhood in which you're building in is certainly typical old Hudson from back in the day, but not typical residential Hudson on the streets that most of us walk on and so on. The scale is different, feelings different, sizes are different in that depot district. So I'm thinking there's something wrong with me because I'm not having a big problem with what you're presenting, and I'm gonna lean on the other folks to see or help us find a way forward.
And apologies to Walter and to Dan. Phil, I would be a little confused as to what it is we would be deciding on.
I know.
I'm, as someone said earlier, this is an immense project, and of course the devil is in the detail. And you know, would we be approving sort of the project in mass and then continue to examine every detail as we go along? But I don't think that's the way we would operate. I don't know what, you know, some of the other commissioners are feeling.
I was trying to break it down, Paul, and probably didn't succeed. I think that we're looking at the two major buildings, period. I don't think we're prepared now or being presented a lot of information about what may be potentially ancillary buildings, et cetera, that are in the grand scheme. We understand those are coming, but that's not what's on the table. I think that we're being asked, let's just start with materials, fenestration, and proportions of those two buildings, and then see if we can squeeze down to another level of detail. And I think that's all we're being asked.
Yeah, I think from this meeting, you know, we would love to just get a list of the additional details that the commission would like to see, and you know, we can always come back to the next meeting with those specifications, with the hope of getting a full certificate of appropriateness.
Well, so, I mean, just jumping in, at some point, the board is going to want to see the lights. They're going to want to see the specific awnings. They're going to want to see the specific doors, and you're not there yet. So I think what Phil is trying to say is what the board can look at are the big picture items.
That's correct. And I know that that it's hard, but I don't see how to progress this. We can go back and forth and not achieve so much. These guys are saying, if you would agree to the large items in these renderings, the storefront fenestration, proportions, mansard roof, the detail underneath, et cetera, we can move with that to go to a next level of specificity, and that can be whatever level we want. We can write into the sea of any number of exclusions, including the notion that we're approving this conceptually for the larger elements to allow it to move forward. The statement can be whatever the statement needs to be, but otherwise I'm feeling stuck. If we go back to disaggregating the project why can't it be 4-family homes instead of this and so on, we end up in pretty much in Nowhereville. And we're not giving these guys tools to work with either. So just saying.
Well, I think that's right. And somebody commented, and I think this is right, this is the biggest project ever, blah, blah, blah. The thing about these large projects is they advance in stages. And to get the granularity, to use your term, Phil, that you want, we have to get past a stage and get into that granular design and be able to bring it to you. So it's not like a house or some of the other things we do. And I want to say quickly, we have another project coming up, hopefully this morning, but maybe not, 501 Union.
You do? You're on the list?
Yeah, we're coming back because you approved the building, but not the storefront. So there's your precedent right there. You could say your storefronts need work. I'm using that as an example, your windows, whatever, but we're approved, but this is what we want you to come back and refine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful if we had an approval for those core elements that you listed, Phil. That would allow us to move forward with design development, and then, you know, as we have more data there, we'll be able to, you know, figure out what specific material treatments and whatnot fit with our project budget, and come back to you for further input. But it would be very helpful to get a certificate of appropriateness on those core elements that you described.
We did this somewhat successfully. Well, I think quite successfully, actually, with the Promenade Hill Park project, where the initial presentation was conceptual. They then mapped out entry and egress and ADA compliant issues and spacing. And then they came back with boulders, benches, stone, gravel, and so on. So it was a 3-part process, because it also was actually pretty huge and hard to break down.
Mm-hmm. Same process. Yeah.
And it involves some public financing, which adds some level of complexity as well.
But it worked. I mean, I think it's actually going to be beautiful, and I think this could work. I don't know how to break it down otherwise, and I don't think there's a basis for going back to zero either. You guys have been working on this for a long time. It's come a long way. I need to refer back to Chip. He's obviously enormously informed on everything to do with this kind of stuff, and I started getting uncomfortable. He was uncomfortable with the fenestration or other key elements, but other commissioners want to weigh in on proposing a way forward?
Well, I think yes, there's a tremendous amount of work here. I you know, in the general look, you know, I think it does definitely harkens back to buildings of a certain era in a more modern sense. With all the designers and architects on the board and that have an opinion, there's always going to be design call outs or window size call outs. And, you know, there's a lot of right ways to do this. So, you know, Walter, you know, is obviously a talented man with a great deal of passion. And, you know, we will have comments on certain things as we move forward in terms of the details. But as it stands, I think that this is a great project. And there's certainly more than enough here to move it forward. You know, so I think we're in a place where, as you said, Phil, and some other people mentioned, that we're able to take what we have here. I think that we're going in a great direction, and as of today, say, okay, we can approve certain things, and then get more granular as the project evolves. You know, and I also do think that a rendering, Walter, showing, you know, we're looking at a static flat thing with no reference of surrounding homes or any of that. I mean, I know that the animation shows that to a certain degree, but if you could do some 3D basic renderings showing what this would look like somewhat in real life, it gives it a lot more personality and puts it in a more realistic context, which helps a lot. But I think that for me personally, we are going in a good direction, and it relates to its surroundings, and that's a very important thing. That's
I
what I
agree.
got.
I agree. Anyone else on the commission who hasn't spoken or commented on this?
Bill, I would just ask one more thing, which is, Chip, we're about to approve this in principle. And yes, if there's a question of materials, if there's a question of finishings, if there's any changes, we'll have our opportunity to weigh in. But I would ask Chip just once more, is there anything specific in terms of guidance that we can give today for Walter to take back? Is there anything more? Are there anything very specific that you would see done differently or with some level of optionality? And if not, then I do agree that we're ready to if not, then we should get those in now, and we should get those before Walter with our commentary. And otherwise, I think we should move to approve it in concept.
I think one of the models, the other model that we can use, Phil had mentioned the promenade, but also the project at the corner of 6th and Union, which was a similarly large, high impact project with a high impact. We approved in general in a concept, not with a certificate of approval, but a nod from the commission that this project is generally headed in the right direction. And that was enough encouragement and backing, if you will, that allowed
Yep, we lost you.
continue on with the detailing of finishes and still leaving the. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, you're back, Chip. You just blanked out for about 3 seconds. No problem.
Oh, sorry. It allowed the applicant to move forward, not just with the detailing of finishes and so forth in a limited way, but also allow the applicant to move forward with other improvements that might include massing, that might include offsets. And I don't want to get the commission into a corner by saying, we approved this part, and this part. And then come back and only review another part, and another part, and another part. We need to look at it holistically. We need to give enough support to the applicant that they feel comfortable moving forward. But ultimately, we're not able to give a certificate of occupancy until we have the full set of architectural documents that are to be provided to Craig for his implementation and review.
You're absolutely right, Chip. Unless it's down to that level of specificity, it's not worth a damn from an overall point of view, because Craig has nothing to enforce. But I have some fondness for the idea of acknowledging how much work these guys have done, giving them some encouragement from us, as well as lots of folks in the community are watching this very closely. Conceptually approving where they're at so that they can move forward. We couldn't, even with another hour's discussion at the level of detail where we're at, issue a proper C of A that code could enforce. It ain't there yet, but concept we can do. Victoria, do you want to weigh in? Does that make sense to you?
Well, I think Chip was asking you to hold off on doing a concept, but you did formally do something like this. And I'm trying to think back. I think it was one of the hotels where you first looked at massing so that they knew they were going forward in the right direction. And then you had them come back for the details. So there's precedent for taking some of those items off the table, such as, excuse me, I'm a little stuffy from allergies, taking some items off the table, such as the window proportions, and not going back to have to look at them again. But you know, some members are saying they're still not comfortable with it. So you guys have to make a decision and decide how you want to move forward.
I can't think of how we move forward. There's so much information associated with this project, including all the surrounding bits, that unless we nod at something, these applicants they got no ground to walk on.
Right. I mean, I will just say from a, you know, development perspective, it costs a lot of money to redo the plans. And so if you don't know what direction, without some direction or taking something off the list, it's difficult to come up with a whole new set of plans, because it is easier to take it in small chunks from that perspective. I also want to point out that the planning board has issued a negative declaration on this project, and that included impact on historical resources. And so, you know, this board did not get involved in the review of this application until, you know, very late in the game. And on future applications, I'm going to encourage this board to weigh in on the planning board process and to get your input to the planning board earlier, because if you did have concerns over massing or size, that's the time that a lot of these things should be dealt with at the planning board level when the building is being designed.
I understand.
So, you know, just pointing out on, you know, Galvin has a few other projects that are fairly large and will be before the planning board. So you should take the opportunity to get your comments to the board on those.
I agree, Victoria. Maybe we'll talk offline, since you work with planning as well. Okay. We need some smoke signals on this, because I can't keep track, and I don't think anybody can, of what everything's going on and what's in the pipeline at planning. They do not signal to us.
They send a notice out to the board.
Right.
It's called like a lead agency notice, and that is the smoke signal.
Okay.
That, you know, yeah.
That's correct.
Hey, Craig.
Generally, that will happen, that the boards are aware they have 2 or 3 other boards of processes they have to go through. If you remember correct, nobody in the city even realized that these properties were in the historic district. And again, they're not in the district, but they're landmarked, and nobody knew that.
Right. Well, this one is special. I understand that. I was just saying, for the moving forward, we might want to give input earlier. Yeah, no, thank you, Craig, for pointing that out. That's right. There was an issue here as to whether or not it was even subject to HPC review that took some time to get resolved.
Okay. I think that I want to head back to Chip for a second. Chip, are you comfortable conceptually? And it also means, as I understand it, that we have agreed to the mass of these structures, which obviously has been approved by planning, and whether we want to look at it or not is probably somehow integrated into the economics of the whole project. If we can agree to the mass, the general fenestration, roof, and street elements in broad strokes, I believe I'm comfortable that we could issue some certificate or something to that effect, and let these guys move on and come back to us.
I think that what that would amount to is basically improving the overall design of the building, but requiring them to come back to us about materials and things like that, which was another part of Chip's concern.
Materials and any variation in spec scale or whatever, they can come back with any changes they wish, as long as they come back for approval.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, very clearly.
I'm sorry. My service is going in and out, and I'm kind of jumping out of some of the audio, so I apologize for that. I think that I'm sorry I missed just some of your conversation there. Phil, I heard you asking about my opinion about moving forward in concept.
Yes.
I think that I feel comfortable that we could move forward in general in concept. We want to give the applicant encouragement. However, I don't want the commission to get backed into a corner whereby we're saying today well, we like the windows and we'll accept the windows the way they are, or we accepting the massing or we're accepting the footprint. I think that we want to review this in a holistic way with all of the granularity, and we want to also give the applicant the opportunity
Chip, you dropped out.
We lost Chip again. I'm gonna have to sign off soon, so we should, can you
I
guys
am
make?
too, actually. I think we have a fundamental problem though, which is I think Chip is recommending that we don't accept the massing and something as important as the layout of the windows. The applicant is asking for basically that, right? And Victoria tells us that these are also the plans that, although late to us, are coming late to us, are basically conceptually approved by the planning board.
Right, with the caveat that they've changed a few things and have to go back to the planning board, but big picture wise, the planning board.
Yeah, but I mean, basically the idea of these large buildings in this zone, on these parcels with, more or less this scale, mass, and window treatment is what's approved. So, I think the commission has to decide whether to ratify this conceptually with a big asterisk for anything that we want to do, or whether, Chip, if you're still there, we want to approve it conceptually with a question about the windows, or a question about them, or even a question about the massing. But if that's the case, it seems to me, if we're gonna ask them to change the massing of the building, then we are, particularly the one before us right now, right, the 7th Street one, which seems to get the most concern, then that's a very large ask, and we should do it now rather than let them move on. But that's just how I'm viewing this after this very long conversation.
Thanks, John.
An important
Very
conversation.
good. I think backtracking on the massing at this point, when they have planning approval for the massing, is grounding the project or creating an enormous lack of clarity within city government as to whether anybody knows what the hell they're doing. This should have probably been disrupted by us if we thought that at the planning stage, but it was not. I just don't see that as part of the ingredients for getting anything done. I like the idea of concept, and I'd like to incorporate in that any other specificity we can. And if we can't, we'll just go ahead with concept. But Chip, you're back. Or not. No such.
Phil, I think what's going to be important is this motion that's about to be made is, how do we define, or what comes with the term of, approving this concept? Like what?
In general, it has to incorporate, or we're now contradicting planning. It has to incorporate stuff that's already been approved by planning, which is scale and footprint. Otherwise, we're offering nothing other than a set of conundrums.
So
beyond, pardon?
Scale and footprint. Okay.
And if we have an objection to, say, the fenestration, then I think we have to say that. I mean, I think that the applicant has to know what it is that we're holding out on.
Okay.
Right. I agree.
Okay.
And same with something like the mansard roof, right? Like if that is not acceptable,
Right.
now is, a year ago might have been the time to say it, but now is our last clear shot to say that, in my opinion.
Exactly.
So let me try to break down the elements again. Chip said he did not want to, when be tied down, And maybe there's a way to say yay, but leave some options open. In general, I didn't see a big problem with the mansard roof. I did not hear folks talking down about brick. There was an enormous improvement in the fenestration by taking the AC out or whatever the hell that was, and going to fewer and I believe somewhat larger windows. There was an enormous improvement in the concept by breaking up the sidewalk scape of the retail frontage into a little more complexity and interesting sections and so on. I don't see why we can't approve that. All these things were requested by the commission and the applicant responded.
I agree, Phil. I think that there's a lot that we can move. I feel there's a lot that we can move forward with. If the fenestration issue remains an issue, or that's something we want to re-examine, we can do that as a specific. But, you know, as a whole, I think that we're, you know, on track to what we had originally discussed.
I do too.
But I think, in fairness, if there's an issue with the windows, that's a really major issue.
Then I want to hear the issue with the windows, Miranda. Who's got it and who's going to present that issue and who's going to persuade the commission?
I think that Chip had an issue with the windows.
He did, and Walter tried to rebut, and we don't know where Chip came out on the other end.
Right.
Polonium I sent him is working, clearly.
Does anyone else have an issue with the windows?
I do not.
I don't.
I do not.
You know, the windows are in keeping with, you know, again, a contemporary version of buildings of 100 years ago that were that are like the Pocketbook Factory, for example. You know, it is of that nature. I think you know, personally, again, I think that it works.
So are we at a place where we could vote to approve this design?
Sure.
With the stipulation that we would like, as plans go forward, to get more detail about the storefronts and the materials and have them come back if they make changes to this.
We don't have to stipulate it because we can't issue a C of A at this point. All we can do, because there's no sufficient detail for Craig to enforce it. All we can do is conceptual approval. And your point, Miranda, is absolutely spot on. The more specificity in that, the more these guys have to work with. But it's not a C of A, and it can't be until we have more information.
And what additional information are we asking for?
Materials, primarily, and then any other modifications that come out, for example, from the meeting with planning or thinking about what we all had to say.
And in order to get there, we have to, if we believe that we're going in the direction that we've all been discussing and that Walter has revised into new looks and plans and styles and specifications, you know, we have to say, okay, at a certain point to get to that next level of what are the lights going to look like in the actual windows and doors.
Right, of course.
So, you know, I feel that we're there. Some of you may feel differently.
So
let's do a motion.
I agree. I think we should just proceed with that. We should formulate the language.
Okay.
And make a resolution and proceed.
I'm with you, John. Do you want to take a shot at? Do you want me to?
I want you to.
That's how you feel. I want another public hearing. All right. I'm going to stumble through this, and then then Victoria will fix it. We move to approve the two structures conceptually, including scale, the roof, the fenestration as we understand it, the storefront design and structure as we understand it. And footnote, it's conceptual approval. This is not a C of A.
You might want to
Can
put
we
in
put the
the
word massing in there?
massing
somewhere?
in there,
I
yeah.
did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Victoria?
Sounds good to me, Phil.
All right,
May I have a motion on that motion?
I will make that motion.
Thank you
Second.
very much, Jeremy. He was second. All in favor?
Aye.
I
Are there any opposed? Done.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Walter. With much excitement, you're on again.
Whoa, where am I going? Roof or storefront?
Phil, I have to go, but I'll wait for Rebecca's.
You
notes.
are on at 501 Union Street is where you're going.
Okay. Now, am I still screen sharing?
Yes,
yes,
And are you
Seeing
seeing
the
501 Union?
yes.
yes.
Oh, boy, I don't understand why that works sometimes and not others. So again, I apologize. I'm very confused. I keep coming and things are discussed and then I go away. Where I think we got with this, I thought, was we had general approval to replace the windows and do the general proposed modifications that we had requested originally on 501, but there was a question about, and I'm using the term as a technical term, storefront, because it's not a commercial building, but there was a storefront component that you can see in this engraving here. And we had discussed different ways to approach it. And I had originally proposed something that wasn't very good, even I admit it. And now we've come back. Oh, please stop. Sorry. Okay. So
Walter, there were two issues on the storefront. One was visual architectural and one was technical legal.
yes,
The visual architectural was us. The technical legal was code enforcement. And it just Craig reminded us that despite the days gone by, this wasn't zoned for a store. So we used some other language to not say storefront.
okay, I apologize. It's still on the drawings, but I'm using the term like it appears in architecture books, not as it appeared, but I'll change it to something else. Anyway, the critique that was made at the last presentation, we simply replaced the openings with larger openings, and it wasn't unified. It didn't reflect what the historic elevation showed. So I don't know if you can see this. I'll try and zoom in. This proposal is to create a new painted wood facade treatment that would contain some oversized 2/2 windows that would go down to the floor, and basically a new reconditioned door into it, and a little cornice that is a bit of a riff on what's happening. I'm sorry, this is so dark. I don't know if you can see it. And then it goes around the corner. There it is. And just expresses itself as that one window.
So
And-
I should point out to the commission that we already issued a C of A for everything but the element that Walter's addressing.
Correct. So we're now, I'm sure you've seen, we're working on the building. It would be appropriate to move forward with this soon. So we're here to ask your permission.
Hello, this is Chip. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry I dropped off for about 10 minutes or so and I missed the last part of that, but I did want to remark about this application, and so I'm butting in because I may lose you again. I think that what's proposed here for the commercial space here, if you will, for this building and wrapping the corner is quite good. And I think that the proportion of the openings and the concept for solid and void, and we're allowing this storefront, if you will, to turn the corner onto Fifth Street. And I think that that's a good move, even though it may not be exactly consistent with
Uh-oh.
To finish what Chip was saying, I think it looks really great.
I agree.
I put in a chip in his phone. Whenever anything critical comes up, it cuts off.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sorry. I
I
didn't
think
realize
it's
it
did
great.
very well.
I think we should approve it.
I have a motion to find the application complete.
Complete.
I'll make
Thank you,
that
Hugh,
motion.
and a second from Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to waive a
Aye.
public hearing and request city attorney to prepare a C of A.
I'll make that motion.
Paul, thank you so much. And a second, Miranda, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done. You're done, Walter.
Thank you. We have one more, but I'm patient.
I'm sorry, guys. I have to leave. I'm very sorry to go, but I just thrilled about this. I live practically next door to this building and I love what it's going to look like.
You can have
I
a
just
tour
want to be sure,
anytime.
Miranda, we still have a quorum. We do, I guess. Okay.
Well, a Chip is, you're gonna lose me also, so I don't know if you have a quorum then.
Let's do a quick nose count. There is Paul, Jeremy, Hugh, and Phil,
So you're good?
and John, right?
I'm here for about another 20 minutes.
We're good for another 20 minutes then. We'll see what we got. We're good,
All
Chip.
right, so can I
Sorry,
leave?
guys.
Can Chip leave?
Yes.
Bye,
Thank
Chip.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Miranda's going to. Very sorry. It's a wonderful meeting. So long.
Come
Oh my
for
God.
a tour,
Are you?
Miranda. Call me.
Okay.
Let me do a nose count again, make sure we're still legal. It is Jeremy, Phil, Hugh,
Paul,
Paul, done. Let's keep on going till we can't. That was 501. We have another resubmission on a project we'd looked at, 29.5 Union Street.
I'm here.
Who's here
I'm
from
here.
29.5?
Samantha with Taconic Engineering. on
Samantha,
behalf
I
of
know
the
you.
owner.
How are you?
Good. How are you, Phil?
Good.
Okay. So I last was here in January and showed this project. And just as a refresher, this is the building, the residential structure that's yellow and brown. Here's the front elevation, side elevation, and the rear. These are existing floor plans. And then these are the proposed. As you can see, the owner wants to demolish this back half, which is going to increase in length only by 9.5 feet. The width is going to remain the same. So it's going to be in the same footprint, except extended 9.5 feet in length. With a new deck on the first floor and a new porch on the second floor, as you can see in the elevation. So this is the existing front elevation. And as recommended by the commission in the last meeting that we were at, it was recommended to restore the front facade back to wood. So we're going to take the existing vinyl siding off to see if the wood is wood is underneath, and restore that. If not, we're going to replace it with wood siding.
So whatever you discover, it's wood siding.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Another thing we're going to be doing is restoring the underneath the bay window to what we believe to be the original siding, which is similar to the neighbors on either side.
Is that shingle or novelty siding or what's going on there? Just curious.
Shingle or novelty? I'm not positive.
Okay, keep on going.
On the rear, another comment by the commission was to remove we had proposed vertical siding, but now we're gonna go back to the horizontal siding.
Yes.
On the side and rear, along with columns added to the porch rather than the cantilever that we had proposed before.
Okay.
And then all the windows will be replaced with Marvin Ultimate double hung or similar windows, and Marvin wood French doors or similar in the rear and side. This new door here and then the new door. And then as another, the board had requested pictures of the neighbors. And here are some neighbors to the left. Here's two of the second floor deck. And then neighbors to the right.
Okay.
Any questions?
Not for me, commissioners?
It looks good to me.
Okay. With that said, may I have a motion to find the application complete?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Paul. And a second,
Second.
you all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to waive a public hearing and request the city attorney to prepare a C of A.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Thank you
second.
very much. And a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done. That's it.
Great, thanks, Bill.
All right, Samantha, take care. Thank you so much, by the way. You actually responded beautifully on everything we asked. You're cool. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I know. Are you still on for this one?
Yes.
What is up next?
15 South Sixth.
Excellent.
Which is Samantha from Taconic Engineering again, on behalf of the owner. And for this project, we were also here back in January. Here is the building, the residential, south elevation, east elevation. So as requested at the last meeting, to show some floor plans to show the deck with the deck configuration and the roof configuration, because we're proposing a third floor addition. So the stairs and deck will remain the same, as you can see here. And the second floor will also remain the same, except there'll be stairs going up to the third floor for egress. And on the garage, there's a addition to the garage as well on the top. And here's the roof line to the garage, or the proposed addition on the garage. A new third floor, second floor roof deck. And then this is the third floor addition, which here is the roof plan for the proposed.
Samantha, why did this app come back? Were there?
There's just recommendations from the board. They
Okay.
to see they wanted to see a roof plan to see the dimensions on like
Understand?
how it would look.
Yeah, I think Chip was saying too, the line of the roof, removing some of the complexity, if I remember.
Yeah. And in reviewing with the owner, we also took the board's recommendation in reviewing like the front awning and decided to go with a more, I guess, original look rather than this type of awning. Excuse me.
I think that looks great.
Is that an awning or a pediment? I'm trying to see.
Oh, overhang, sorry.
No, just at the bottom. Does it protrude from the building? I just
Yes.
couldn't tell. Okay.
Yeah, and you'll see that in the, just a little.
I see. Okay.
We updated, and just more comments from the board last week. I think Chip wanted to see the windows represented what it actually current is. So currently they're 2/2 on majority of them. And he wanted to see these added to the existing. But on the proposed, we're removing those, filling those in. And the only window that's getting replaced on the east side is this top window due to the third floor addition. And that'll
Okay.
be replaced with the Marvin Ultimate Holland double.
And
or
that's now
Ultimate
a
wood.
2/2.
Yeah, and 2/2.
So you pretty much have 2/2s everywhere.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then new windows on this enclosed porch bump out, also 2/2s, and then 2/2 windows on the addition, the above garage addition.
You're still keeping that cinder block, I see. I know we didn't comment on, but that's still the plan.
Yes.
Okay.
We also wanted to clarify that we're replacing the chain link fence that's there and replacing it with a new wood gate and fence. And then also the material for the roof deck and the porches is going to be wood.
Okay. All right. I remember now. Those questions all came up and there was a little uncertainty on some of the materials.
Yep.
But you
And
got it.
then another request was that we show elevations of the house. Before we just had it with the garage in the way, but now we added elevations with just the back of the house to show you what the back of the house would look like. So we're going to be replacing these 3 windows here on the porch, enclosed porch bump out. We're going to do a new overhang from the back of the door in the back. And here's the new stair configuration. And this bottom stair is existing. We're going to be adding this this stair to the 3rd floor roof deck. Obviously new windows and doors on the 3rd floor addition. Here's just the west elevation. New door on the addition above the garage. And new door on the porch bump out.
Okay. Commissioners, I think she covered everything we asked.
Yes, it looks great.
I think it looks fine. Yes.
Okay. Motion to find the application complete.
Motion.
Thank you. Second by Paul. Motion to waive a public hearing, request the city attorney to prepare a CBA.
I'll make that motion.
Terrific. Jeremy and Paul,
Yes.
all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None. Approved, Samantha.
Great, thank you, Phil. Thank
Phil,
you, Phil.
I need to go. I have a 1 o'clock I have to go to.
Okay, let's see if we still have a quorum. It's getting close.
How many do you need?
I think you'll,
4.
yeah, it will only be 3 with Jeremy leaving.
Shit, excuse me.
How many more do we have?
8.
We have about 4 more. Some of them are
Oh, wow.
rather
Okay.
simple. Some are not necessarily so simple because it just doesn't always work that way.
820 Warren Street's been trying for about 2 months.
That's a fence, and we've got 253 is a roof. Where are we? I'm lost on the list.
We would be at 253.
253 Union Street. That should be a straight up roof. Who's here from 253?
Me, Walter again. Hi,
Moved.
Walter, be very quick on your roof.
super quick. Hi. Let's see. Okay, got to find it. Oh dear.
What's it made of?
It's asphalt shingle. It's a beautiful, here it is right here. Oh, please do this. Come on. Okay.
Was it asphalt that was up already?
Yes, we're replacing a asphalt shingle roof with a timberline weathered wood asphalt shingle roof that's barely visible from the street, and you have all the specs with you. I submitted them all. I've got it. in front of
No,
me.
I looked at the application when you sent it in. So it's not exactly like for like, but it's an asphalt roof with any other details being moved or changed?
No, nothing. We just need to put a new roof on because it's leaking.
I'm feeling good about this.
Sounds good. Silence.
Great. Wow.
You should always go at the end of a long meeting, Walter. This is the key.
Yeah, but I've been using it so long.
I'm going to make a motion to find the application complete. I read the application. It's complete. A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. A motion to waive a public hearing and request the city attorney to prepare a C of A for Walter's new asphalt roof.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you very much. And second, all
I
in
got it.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed.
My best day ever at HPC. I'm going to treasure this. Thank you so much.
Okay, somebody is here with a fence
820 Warren Street.
Correct. 820.
I just texted her.
Should we move on to the next? And when she joins?
Gone. What's after 820? 30 Union Street, egress and stairs.
Yes, John Connors here.
Go, John.
Yes, hi. My laptop died, so I'm on my phone now.
Okay. Can you share your screen, John? Not so much.
I cannot, since I'm on my phone now, not on my laptop. It's numbered. The most relevant picture would be attachment 5. Of the,
Now to share.
I'm sorry, somebody just bumped in.
the most relevant picture is attachment 5. It's an egress structure, just replacing what was there. The application page 3 has details of materials, spacing, height, etc. But for your purposes, I think the most interesting picture would be number 5, which is the 2019 picture of the egress structure.
Everybody's going to be able to pull that up. In fact, I'm sure not. This is, damn.
I've been on for 3 hours, and as you well know, so and it just, my computer just died, so I'm on my phone.
I understand.
In the past, I think Rebecca, but I think she's gone now, has been able to pull things up, but I understand she's gone.
We're down to vapor.
Okay, but you don't have the applications in front of you, unfortunately.
No, back in paper days we did. They come in through, at least in my case, they all come in through code enforcement. And
can you see my face or no?
No,
Yeah.
I see you.
Photo,
You
yeah.
can- But not my photo, or
Just your
my actual
photo.
me?
Just your photo. What's the address, Phil, for this?
30 Union.
30 Union Street.
30 Union.
30 Union Street.
There's only 820 we're missing on the fence, and then the last one is 513 Warren.
This is the actual.
820 is in the room.
Here is the picture of the old egress structure. I don't know if that's any helpful. Probably not.
No, it's not. I think we should try to. Does 820? Do you have drawings or material that you can share on your screen?
Yes, Sarah?
Yeah, I've got the photos.
Great. That's the most relevant of the mall.
Why don't we move on that? Can you put
That
up
would be
your
great.
screen?
Thank you very much.
There's a
That's
confusion there, Phil. You got 2 different people talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. John, I was switching gears to the fence because we actually need to see your app.
Yeah. So I'm trying to share, I'm pressing the button that says share screen, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm putting desktop share. Allow Zoom to share your screen.
You see them, so sorry, you have that, okay? You're all set though, right?
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Perfect.
But it's not showing you guys the picture. Paul, I emailed it for you.
1,
Can
2,
you see
3.
it?
Um,
I'm pressing share screen.
no, I know. Commissioners, what do you think? We've got 2 people who've been here
I have
for
desktop.
what seems like a lifetime. We're gonna lose our quorum in a minute.
Phil, is this project a like for like
It
replacement?
is. Yes, it is.
Which?
So it's
Which
all
one?
wood and you're doing exactly the same thing?
That's correct. Yes.
Wait
If
a
it
minute, folks. You got 30 Union Street talking and you got 820 Warren Street talking at the same time.
Correct.
Oh, okay. We're talking to John Connor right now. Is that correct?
Well, we were talking to the other applicant at the same time, Hugh.
All right.
No,
Well,
it was 2 people. I was going to make a suggestion, which is this is no way to run an airline.
right.
We don't have our folks. We don't have our drawings. We don't have our commission secretary. We don't have our commission architect. there are 1, 2, 3, 4 of us. We could do a special Zoom for these guys next Friday and get them out of the way and pay proper attention to what we're doing. I'm not this is way too sloppy.
Could I ask a question, Phil? It's Jane.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't realize you had to, I called up City Hall a couple of times. I didn't realize you had to schedule for this meeting. And I wanted to know, could I come in, since I sat here for 3 hours, could I come in next Friday on this Zoom for, I have a building at 126 Warren Street.
Jane, you got to come back to me on that. Has your application gone to Craig Hague?
Well, Craig is the one who just told me to get in touch with you because it was just for.
No, Jane, that is not what I
Okay.
said. I told
Where are you?
Jane,
Yeah,
I told your contractor, Evan, that
Yeah.
an application needs to be submitted with
Oh.
drawings of what you're building to me so I can review it and send it to Historic Preservation for a review. That
okay,
has not happened.
he didn't tell me about that part,
Okay.
about filling out the application. Because I did get Chad over there.
Jane,
Chad
you're
Lidman.
changing sort of the order of business. There are other folks
Okay.
ahead of you.
All right, so
Just
I need to
let
come in.
me summarize.
Okay,
This stuff has to go through Craig. I will schedule the agenda with Craig, but you're
Okay.
not even at the starting gate until Craig has all your material. So I
okey
can't,
doke.
I can't,
Okay, I'll call up Chad then.
everything has to go through Craig. He is the beginning and the end of the process.
Yeah, I get it. I just
Okay.
wasn't, thank you though. All right,
no
I'll get it
problem.
organized. All right, take care.
Let me ask this, where are we now? Jeremy, Hugh, Paul, and Phil. Would you guys agree to, if we set a special meeting just for these 2 remaining applicants?
Yes,
I can.
yes.
Are you okay
I
with
could do
that?
it. I could do it any day.
Okay,
I could even do it sooner, whatever you want to do.
I could do it at 5 today if you all can.
no, I'm not that clever. Let me get back to, or who's been sitting through this now?
Sean Connor.
Give me the addresses though,
820 Warren Street.
right? And John, what's yours?
30 Union.
30 Union.
And do we have 513 Warren?
Yes, Kylie from Taconic Engineering.
All right,
And Phil,
yeah,
there's another application that wasn't on the agenda that was sent over, and it's a revised from an existing approval, and that was 205, 207 Warren Street.
Thank you, Phil. Yeah, Mr. Foreman, this is Sokol, and I'll be representing that. If we can get on that Friday agenda, that would be great.
let me see what I can do. I'm gonna try to, I trust my colleagues that they will show up. My suggestion is we keep it simple and do it Friday week from today. It will only be these 4 applicants who got bumped because of the extraordinary length of the public hearing and the follow-up discussion. And we're going to try to make up for you. We'll get in touch to confirm. And that's my story. And at this point, I think we need to adjourn. We don't have our stuff.
All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Sure.
Yes.
Very much.
Sorry, I've been like waiting since 10 a.m. to try to show you guys a white picket fence that I want to put up in front of my house that's just the same as my neighbor's white picket fence. Do I have to go through this again?
Probably yes, because I don't. It's not that simple. I understand it's a white picket fence, but there still is a process for looking at it.
Okay, that's all I want to know. Just tell me when I have to be available.
I will do. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Done. I'll get back to everybody. And for the applicants who got bumped today, I apologize, but this isn't the way to do it. We have to focus on your work. We're going to try to do it a week from today.
Thanks, everyone.